Chapter 1317. Zhang Xiaobao completely agreed with Wang Wan's words. Even if 10 caddies of wheat could be exchanged for 1 copper coin in Great Tang, and this did not include the cost of transportation, 1 copper coin in Great Tang could only buy half a caddy of wheat. So should he sell it? He had to sell it. However, the money could not be exchanged for wheat in Great Tang. It could be exchanged for salt, other handy tools, or even a biology book for children in school. This was the pressure of technology, paying so much in exchange for a very basic technology of Great Tang. It was impossible to advance further unless one researched the basics themselves. Then one had to pay an even higher price. How high was the price? If others spent 100 strings of cash to research a technology, one could forget about obtaining it without at least 1 million strings of cash. This was because there was a connection and continuity between technologies. Spending 100 strings of cash to research a basic technology did not mean that the technology itself was worth 100 strings of cash. If one factored in military and productivity, 1 million strings of cash would be considered cheap. The best method was to pay a large amount of resources to learn all the basic technologies of Great Tang and nurture a group of people. Then, one could continue to buy technology while one researched. If it were a smart country or race, they would need 100 years to catch up. And in this 100 years, they would have to endure the pressure of international trade. In order to establish a world forest, one had to use the strength of one's nation. However, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were not at all afraid of the people from the Anxi region, and the little Brahmins in front of them researching technology. They only restricted Japan, and would not give them any chance. That nation was also very smart. As for the Anxi region, and the little Brahmin kingdom, one was Myanmar, the other was India. And the same was true for the Polyphagia region, and the Arabian region. It was not that they were looking down on them, but even if you gave them technology, they would have to learn for a very long time, until the technology was eliminated. But what if you tried Japan? They would definitely be able to learn and understand the technology in a short time, and then derive other technologies from it. Therefore, they had to get rid of them, and not give them the slightest chance. Otherwise, they could only exterminate their families. This was not good. It did not match the spirit of Yan Huang, and could not show the charm of Wuxia. All areas with Chinese people must have Chinatowns and Chinatowns. We are the only ethnic group in the world with this ability. Even the smart Jews can't do it. This shows that we are the most tenacious, the most adaptable, and the most tolerant. I am willing to tolerate, but I will never allow threats to exist. I agree to include all races in the world into the Chinese nation, but I will not coexist with them as countries. 6 Zhao, your last chance. If you miss it, don't blame me, Zhang Xiaobao, for being ruthless. The universe is too vast, and we are wasting our time trying to influence you bit by bit. Anyone who hinders the integration of the races is a sinner. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's team had already arrived at the territory of the other Zhao. Zhang Xiaobao glanced at the people hiding in the woods, and said as if he was talking to himself, and making a declaration. Wang Wan ordered not to shoot at the scouts of the other side. The team continued to move forward. She said to Zhang Xiaobao, "It's a good place to call the brothers and sisters of the Yunnan region. We have always called ourselves Yimeng. Now that we have 2 surnames, it's enough. Yimeng is Yimeng with other Zhao, and Yimeng without other Zhao is Yimeng. Myanmar will not exist because of the 6 Zhao. Besides, there will be no Myanmar in the future. Buddhism will flourish because it is close to India. The 6 Zhao will either happily become a part of the Tang Empire, or become a part of us passively. I thought you were going to make the people with the surnames Meng and Quan disappear. But in the end, you've become active and passive," Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan as he waved at the locals who poked their heads out of the woods. Wang Wan took half a step back and said, "I can't do it. I'm not like you. I only slaughter villages in the process of battle to achieve my goal. You fight to achieve the goal of slaughtering villages. Me killing civilians is a special case, you killing civilians is normal. That's why soldiers are cute and conspirators are shameful. This time, the number of people who die in the war is definitely far less than the number of people who die because of your economic means. No wonder you were captured and didn't die. A person like you is worth an army. I don't dare. I can't compare to Grandpa Qian. That's why I like to sing Swallows Fly Twice. Without him, I don't even know what Swallows Fly Twice is. The kind me can't be a politician. A politician can not only ignore the lives of others, but is even willing to use the lives of his own people as a bargaining chip. I'm far from that. My heart is too weak. I've always respected the song of loving my love with no regrets. That's the song in the old TV series. There's another song in this TV series that I like very much. It's written specifically for the female lead. Zhang Xiaobao said, and waved to the person hiding behind the tree again. That guy was not brave enough to come out. Wang Wan sighed. From the beginning to the end, you've been spouting nonsense. In the beginning, you said that you were kind, but in the end, you said something about writing a song for the female lead. I'm writing a song for the author San Mao, okay? San Mao from the Vagabond? Are you coming out or not? If you don't come out, I'll shoot. Zhang Xiaobao casually answered Wang Wan and shouted to the person. The person hiding behind the tree came out with a bow. After thinking about it, he put down the bow and quiver. Step by step, he walked towards Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao stared at the person and suddenly said, "Throw away the bamboo pipe at your waist." The person took off the bamboo pipe used for blow darts and put it on the ground. He walked until he was 15 steps away from Zhang Xiaobao and stopped. "Tell me, what are you doing here?" Zhang Xiaobao asked. The person's eyes were blank. He began to speak his own language, and his hands were also gesturing. It was obvious that he couldn't understand and couldn't communicate. Zhang Xiaobao was amused. Wang Wan also laughed. Patting his forehead, Zhang Xiaobao said to the person, "I'm so worried. Who sent such an interesting thing like you? Could it be the person standing behind you?" The person turned around and looked back. There was no one behind him. "There's no one, right?" "I know there's no one, but I also know that you can understand me. Don't make me laugh. Come, it looks like you don't have it easy. Take this salt. I remember there was no embargo on you. Don't you usually eat salt? Your skin is really bad." When Zhang Xiaobao saw through the person still pretended to be ignorant. Zhang Xiaobao had to signal the person next to him to take a bamboo tube of salt and throw it to the person. Then he commented on the person's skin. The person took the bamboo tube, opened the lid, dipped his hand in the white powder, put it in his mouth and sucked. His eyes immediately narrowed. He nodded repeatedly and said to Zhang Xiaobao in the Tang language, "Delicious, thank you." "You're welcome," Zhang Xiaobao humbly replied. The person licked again. "It's really delicious. Thank you," Zhang Xiaobao said. "You're welcome," the person replied. Wang Wan couldn't help but laugh and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Are you doing crosstalk with him?" Crosstalk, you know? Come, little brother. Seeing that you're younger than me, come closer. Don't worry, I won't harm you. There are canned food, one for each of us. We can chat while eating, and also drink some wine. Zhang Xiaobao beckoned the person forward. Someone brought over canned pork ribs, not the small kind, but more than 2 caddies. Another person brought over a wine glass that could hold half a caddy, and filled it to the brim. There was no need to heat it, as the temperature here would make the wine warm. The person hesitated. "Come and eat. If I want your life, I don't need to use poison. I have something to ask you, and I need you to help me pass on a message." Zhang Xiaobao opened the canned food and invited the person again. The person thought for a while, and finally came in front of Zhang Xiaobao. The two of them sat on the ground. Zhang Xiaobao passed a small knife to the person, and took one for himself. He first put a piece of pork rib into his mouth and ate it. The person took the knife and looked at it first, then looked at Zhang Xiaobao, and learned to eat a piece of pork rib. After chewing twice, a satisfied look appeared on his face. "Delicious, right? Come, let's drink. It's strong, slow down." Zhang Xiaobao took a small sip. He couldn't raise his head and drink 60% wine. It wasn't that he couldn't drink half a caddy, but it was a pity. When drinking strong white wine, one had to experience the mouth, esophagus, and stomach first cool down, and then suddenly warm up. At the same time, there was also the smell of alcohol and the aftertaste. Good wine had to be spicy when it entered the mouth, and then a line went down the stomach, and then the aftertaste was fragrant. Bad wine was fragrant when it was drunk, but the throat would first hurt, and then the stomach would be cold, and the aftertaste would be bitter. Aged wine belonged to the former, and blended wine belonged to the latter. And any white wine that didn't exceed 50% was not a good white wine. Zhang Xiaobao felt that the wine in his house was not bad, but this person just drank a mouthful and choked. It was as if there was a piece of cotton in his throat. I told you to drink less, but you insisted on drinking a big mouthful. Hold your breath and eat the canned food. Zhang Xiaobao complained. This person was really obedient. He immediately ate a piece of pork rib and swallowed it. He let out a long breath, rolled his eyes and praised. Good wine, good meat. The wine is good wine, but the meat is just so. The two of us are eating canned pork ribs. I actually like to eat it, but more people like to eat lamb chops, steak and deer chops. It's just that ordinary people can't eat the latter too. If you have sheep herders here, we are willing to exchange a can for 20 catty of lamb chops. You feel that you are making a loss, but in fact we need to transport the canned food here and add a lot of spices. When the lamb chops are raw, it is 20 catty, but when it is cooked, it will be reduced by a lot. You eat it every day, so you should know. There is also the leftover tin. In Tang, canned food is divided into glass jars, tin jars and bamboo jars. Glass jars are usually filled with fruits because fruits have acid and will react with the tin. It's useless to tell you this. Anyway, it's just tin. After eating the food inside, the tin can still be used. You can use the box as a bowl, right? The lid can be used as a knife. It's very sharp. If you don't believe me, you can gently cut it and see if you can cut it. Are you stupid? You're too honest. Who sent you here? You're too honest. Who sent you here? Someone come. Zhang Xiaobao tried his best to explain why the canned food could be exchanged for so much lamb. In the end, the other party used the lid of the can to cut his hand. Sure enough, it was cut, and blood kept flowing out from his index finger. A medic brought gauze and medicine to help bandage it. It was just a small wound, so it was fine. Don't let your cut finger come into contact with water for 2 days. Take off the gauze before you sleep tonight. Luckily I said cut your hand. If I said cut your neck, you would have committed suicide in front of me. How can I explain to your tribe? It's not that I care about killing one of you. The problem is that I am innocent. If I didn't kill you, then I didn't kill you. Why should I take the blame? This roll of gauze and the rest of the medicine are all yours. Don't laugh as if you are taking advantage of me. I would rather not be injured than to take these things. Zhang Xiaobao was speechless. At the same time he showed a sad expression. This person tucked the gauze and medicine into the animal skin belt at his waist like he was hiding a treasure. He smiled at Zhang Xiaobao and said, My name in Tang is Li Yunyan. Your medicine is very valuable. These medicine and gauze can be exchanged for 5 sheep. Li Yunyan is a girl's name, okay? Fine, you can call me that. In fact, the medicine you have now contains local herbs. It's just that when we use it, it's more effective than the medicine you make yourself. The medicine and gauze are not even worth a catty of lamb. If you use 5 sheep to exchange for it, how much will you pay? That's why you should go back and tell your king that the current Tang is different from the past Tang. If he wants to destroy you, he can destroy you. If he wants to make your life better, he can make your life better. It's not a complete surrender. In fact, it's just a small portion of you who want to have absolute power over the majority of you. They would rather have a bad life in the tribe than lose their power. It's a very selfish behavior. Zhang Xiaobao continued to say to the man who called himself Li Yunyan. Li Yunyan lowered his head and thought. He ate 2 ribs and even chewed the bones. Then he asked, Are you willing to give up your power? You are asking a deep question. Of course I am not willing. But I can make the people who give me power live better lives. I also have the ability to maintain my power. I can also ensure that they are not bullied by others. If they bully others, I will help them bully others. Can your king do that? Zhang Xiaobao frankly admitted that he would not give up his power, but he also pointed out his advantages. Li Yunyan shook his head. No, but we are willing to fight to the end. The sheep you killed may also think the same. Do you care if the sheep resist? In other words, you don't care about us, right? Wrong. We care about you. We don't want to go to that step. We want to continue to expand and fight to the west. I can't sleep well if you are in the middle. What benefits can you give us? Didn't we already give you the technology to build a factory? What factory? Li Yunyan curled his lips. Zhang Xiaobao began to look at him again. After a while he nodded and said, I can see that you are not a scout. You are the person your tribe sent to contact and negotiate with us. And you are very familiar with many things. If I kill you now, your entire tribe will cry. Not only will they cry, but they will also be very helpless. Li Yunyan smiled and said, You are a man with an Adam's apple. You smile like a woman. Change your name. I understand what you mean. You are the last person to take out. Your tribesmen are all looking at us. I really can't kill you. I need someone who is familiar with the Tang Empire. The technology to build the factory was provided because you participated in the Japanese's conspiracy against the Tang Empire. In a few days, there will be a large number of logistics and supply teams passing by your place. There are not many armed guards, and there are things there. We can guard, and we can also take out all kinds of food to exchange with the supply team. I know that the supply team must have special goods for exchange. This way, we don't have to carry more food along the way. A cart of goods for exchange can be exchanged with others on the road for hundreds of carts of food supplies. Without waiting for Zhang Xiaobao to finish, Li Yunyan interrupted Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao smiled. Wang Wan also smiled. The two looked at each other and immediately understood each other's thoughts. It seemed that the people here did not only know how to wait for results, but also knew how to take the initiative to attack. Under the pressure of survival, no one was a fool. The two of them thought of those small countries in the past. In order to survive in the international world, they had to curry favor with a large country, while also threatening it. They were like fence-sitters, occasionally moving closer, and sometimes moving away. They struggled to survive in the cracks, but even so, they were still attacked by other large countries. Moreover, if not for the current Tang Empire, in normal history, the six Zhao, Tubo, and Jinla would indeed rely on the Tang Empire while also using it. In the current situation, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan understood that this time, it was not a political and nominal compromise between a weak country and a strong country, but true harmony. It was not that they did not want to, but that they had no choice. When the Tang Empire reached a certain level of strength, any small trick in exchange for absolute destruction. Why did the small countries in the past have such illusions? Because the United States did not have absolute authority, and neither did the Soviet Union. In the end, it was the mutual compromise between the large countries that had tricked them. They wanted to rely on one large country to fight against another, but the other large country was not stupid. So who could fight against the Tang Empire now? Could they still rely on the geographical environment and climate to make the Tang Empire consider whether it was worthwhile to attack? The Tang Empire had trained its soldiers to adapt to the geographical environment over the years. The small skirmishes with Duosher and the disaster relief missions to Tubo were all for this moment. Have you thought it through? Zhang Xiaobao, who had thought it through, asked Li Yunyan. Every time he thought of the other party's name, he felt very uncomfortable. He was clearly a man, but he had to use a woman's name. The canned food is very delicious. In the future, you can actually build a canning factory here. We are willing to help you build other factories further west. Here we have beautiful mountains and clear waters. If you don't believe me, look at your guards and servants. None of them are affected by the climate. Li Yunyan did not directly answer Zhang Xiaobao's question. Instead, she talked about the canned food and the factory, but the key was in the last sentence. She said that when Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan came here, they did not care about mosquitoes, miasma, or other things. The main defense of the six Zhao was the environment. It was not that the Tang Empire had not come here to attack before, but the losses were great. After conquering, they could not manage, and in the end, they had to hand over power. Now, the other party's large army had come here without any problems. Was there a need to say anything more? The natural defense line had been broken. As for the battle with their army, if they could defeat more than 10,000 of them, they could directly declare that they were no longer under the jurisdiction of the Tang Empire. The Tang Empire could not do anything to them. But was that possible? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also understood the other party's meaning. Zhang Xiaobao said, "The mountains and rivers are indeed good. It will be a tourist attraction. The Tang Empire has other places that are not bad. You can send people to take your family members to see them." Understood. When things are stable, we will move most of our people to see them, Li Yunyan replied. Chapter 13:18. Li Yunyan left. She ate the whole can of food and drank half a caddy of wine. In a daze, she left with a backpack of more than 40 caddies of gifts. Among the gifts, there was a pair of binoculars, a pistol, and 200 bullets. The rest were seeds. As for the canned food, Li Yunyan didn't think it was important. After solving the problem of 1 or 2 tribes, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan continued their journey. They were relieved. Both sides had agreed to build the harmful factories further away and build a canning factory at the same time. When the situation stabilized, a large number of people would migrate to various parts of the Tang Empire for tourism purposes. "Pick up the pace and move forward," Zhang Xiaobao ordered. The team immediately sped up. This made things difficult for Xiao Bei and the others. They couldn't be carried by others all the time. The others were also tired. Usually, they would walk for 2 hours and be carried for an hour before they could catch up with the rest of the group. Although they said they were in a hurry, there was no road at all. They couldn't even see a winding path. There were only mountains and forests around them. Occasionally, they would come across a small valley. They had to take a detour and find a good place to set up camp. The people who walked in the front had the hardest time. Little Bei and the others didn't have to run to the front. When they started walking, there was already a road. All kinds of poisonous insects had been cleaned up. The scenery is beautiful. It's really good. But I still want to stay in a big city. It's wet and humid. It's even worse than when I was in Luzhou. Little Bei wore a pair of thick leather boots. When the team stopped to rest, he walked forward and chose a place where he could see the situation at the foot of the mountain. He complained to the people next to him. Little Yuan and the others found a flat place to lie down. After all, they were still young. It was very tiring to follow the speed of the adults. If it weren't for their good nutrition and exercise, they would have been carried forward. Compared to the 9 of them, Su Yilong, the grandson of Su Jian, who had been following them, was much worse. He was older than Little Bei and the others, and came from a good family. He couldn't be compared to Little Bei and the others. Ever since he met Xiao Bei and the others before coming to Idyll Prefecture, he had never left. Occasionally, Xiao Bei and the others would go out to play children's games while he stayed with the group. Although he was old, his physical strength could not keep up. He was very grateful that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan did not play this kind of rapid march when they first met him. Instead, they gradually increased their speed, and at the same time increased their intensity. This gave him a chance to adapt. Although he was not much different from a dead dog now, he could still breathe. "I can't take it anymore. I feel that I've lost a lot of weight. If I walk for a few more days, I'll definitely die," Su Yilong said to Xiaohai, who was lying beside her. Xiaohai closed her eyes and relaxed her body. Wei Wei opened her mouth and adjusted her breathing. Obviously, she was giving a psychological suggestion to recover her strength quickly. She had no time to pay attention to Su Yilong. Xiao Bei looked at the scenery for a while and asked someone to spread a blanket. She directly lay down and stretched out her arms. This way, she would feel comfortable breathing and use her body weight to compress her lungs. Xiao Yuan curled up on his side, like a baby in his mother's belly. The big boys and small boys hugged together. Zhang Gang and Zhang Chong had one leg stretched out horizontally, and the other leg stretched out horizontally. Anyway, each had their own most comfortable resting position. The others in the group were also resting. Only the cook was busy. Zhang Xiaobao did not show his cooking skills at the moment. He was waiting for the logistics staff to stew the dishes. The dishes were local wild vegetables, mushrooms, and the meat of the wild animals that were hunted. The staple food was the same, bamboo rice cooked with rice. This could save the time of washing the dishes. It was not that the stew was delicious. If it was in the northeast, it was okay to eat stew in winter. It was warm and would not get cold easily. In this place, The feeling of eating stew was much worse than cooking. But stew was the most convenient. There were many wild animals on the mountain. The people who opened the path and the people who were in charge of scouting in front killed them. Crossbows were very useful at this time. No one used guns, otherwise they would scare the animals away. After half an hour, the meat was stewed. The cook ate first. When he was half full, he lay down to rest. The others took turns to eat. The meal would probably take another half an hour. Xiao Bei and the others were woken up. They took the split bamboo tube and ate a big mouthful of rice first. Then, they scooped out some vegetables from the pot and put them in the empty space where they had just eaten. They stirred the vegetables with the newly made bamboo chopsticks and ate 2 mouthfuls of the vegetables, leaving more space for them to scoop out more vegetables. Why are the mushrooms so smooth? The taste is not good. Su Yilong scooped a piece of meat with 2 small mushrooms. She ate one and muttered. Xiao Bei turned his head to look and said to Su Yilong, "Poor people can't eat good things. This is a very delicious beef liver mushroom. It can be picked and eaten directly. Some mushrooms will be poisoned if eaten directly. It needs to be dried first. You eat the meat and leave the mushrooms to us. The taste is not good, but the taste is good." Su Yilong immediately corrected her mistake. She did not doubt Xiao Bei's words at all. He was an expert in eating. He could eat a lot of rare things since he was young. It would be a lie to say that she was not envious. She ate the other mushroom with the fastest speed and swallowed 2 mouthfuls of rice. Su Yilong scooped some vegetables again and looked at them. She showed a troubled expression. Xiao Yuan looked and handed half of his bamboo tube over. "Give it to me. It's just snake meat. Look at how scared you are. Look carefully when you scoop it later. Don't scoop it up if you don't eat it." Su Yilong happily gave a small piece of snake meat to Xiao Yuan. Xiao Yuan chewed it slowly and nodded repeatedly. She praised, "It's delicious. When it comes to stewing dishes, snake meat is more fragrant. It's much better than rabbit meat. It's very nutritious." When Su Yilong heard that it was very nutritious, she began to regret it. When she was almost done eating, she wondered, "You guys seem to be able to eat anything. Don't you have your own preferences? No matter what, you're raised by a rich family, and you have preferences. Look at the situation now. If it weren't for the fact that I could cook it, I would eat it even if it was raw. It's better than starving to death. It's a pity that we can't eat the snake's gall. I'm afraid that there are parasites. Unless it's made into snake gall wine with strong alcohol, I can't drink it." Xiao Yuan despised Su Yilong and lowered her head to eat the last 2 mouthfuls of rice. She then scooped 2 spoonfuls of soup and gulped it down. She touched her stomach. "I'm 60% full. Okay, let's continue the journey later." Su Yilong looked at Xiao Yuan's rice, and then looked at his own. He found that the little guy could eat more than him. He was almost full now. After he ate the last mouthful and drank some soup, he estimated that he would be very full. Moreover, he was very envious of the little guys. When they were tired from the journey, they could recover immediately after a little rest. When they were growing, they really could not compare. After the meal, the team continued their journey. No one was injured until they started to set up camp at night. The people who were in charge of protecting the surrounding area cleaned up all the snakes and poisonous insects. As for the legendary terrifying wolf pack, they only saw a shadow and then disappeared from sight. They probably also found out that the crowd was more powerful than them. The meal at night was better than at noon. There were 2 stir-fried dishes and a soup, and there were also pancakes. 5 days later, the team entered the border of India. They started to set up camp at noon, because they had just crossed an unknown river. The river was very wide, and the current was not fast. It was also not very deep. The deepest part was less than 4 meters. Xiao Bei said it himself. Su Yilong, who did not know how to swim, was dragged to the shore by the little guys. He felt that he had an illusion before. The team led by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were not elites who were familiar with the mountainous terrain. Although the speed of walking on the mountainous terrain was fast and very stable, compared to swimming, it was really a far cry. Previously, when the current was fast, they formed a line. This time, when the current was slow, they all went down to swim. The logistics personnel even had all kinds of tools. They actually put the pot on the water, put something in the pot, and pushed it across the river. There was also the infantry cannon that weighed more than 400 kilograms. How could more than 20 people carry it over? Some people went back and forth a few times, and all the things they carried were transported over. This was clearly the navy. They were wearing clothes and were not affected by the river water. When he was dragged over by Xiao Bei and the others, he felt that he could also try to swim, so he let them let go first. As a result, his body sank directly. It was too scary. And when he was dragged over, Xiao Bei let the other 8 little guys drag him temporarily while he caught a fish. He thought that it was just like catching a chicken on land. It was too easy. Xiao Bei, how did you practice to be so good at swimming? After changing clothes, Su Yilong, who started to wash the clothes before, asked Xiao Bei, who was also washing clothes. When she heard Su Yilong's words, she tilted her head and thought for a while. Then she shook her head. I don't know. I forgot. It's just like that. I heard from them that my brother put me in the water at that time. At first, I looked up and floated happily. Later, when I was a little older, I swam next to my brother and listened to him sing while lying on the water. But I don't remember. How do you lie on the water? Is it like this? Su Yilong stretched out both arms with palms facing down. Xiao Bei shook his head. No, it's like this. Xiao Bei retracted his arms and put his hands under his neck. Wei Wei raised her head. Su Yilong followed suit, and her face changed immediately. Why didn't you sink? Does anyone dare to lie in the water like this? You just need to move your feet a little. Of course, your feet will sink if you don't move. You're so stupid. Think about it. Lying on the water and listening to brother sing is so blissful. Xiao Bei felt that he could not scold Su Yilong anymore. Her IQ was too low. Su Yilong nodded and admitted that she was stupid and could not speak reason. The only thing she knew was that some people really could not be looked at with common sense. She was talented and could not be jealous. Then why do all the people in your family know how to swim? Su Yilong stopped talking about Xiao Bei and changed the topic to other people. It's a request. I heard from my sister that brother doesn't want anyone to have an accident in the water. You will know if you go to Sanshui County. Every once in a while, there will be people patrolling the river or the river. They are afraid that other people's children will fall and drown. So when the children in Sanshui County say that they want to go out to play, the adults are relieved when they know that they are going to the river. It's not like other places where the children say that they want to go to the river to play, and the adults don't let them. After Xiao Bei finished speaking, he continued to rub his clothes. He looked very serious. Su Yilong said understandingly, if it were me, I would also be willing to let the children play by the river in Sanshui County. It's safe and stable. Everyone changed their clothes and began to bathe in batches. Xiao Bei felt very uncomfortable because he could not bathe for a few days. He set up his tent here and did not plan to move forward again today. The cooks who had bathed first began to set up pots and ran upstream to catch fish with nets. Zhang Xiaobao had good news. They could already use telegrams to directly contact the army on this road. The army hoped that they could cooperate and prevent any side from providing food supplies to the reinforcements of Duoshi, who were forced to retreat in the northwest. That's right. Previously, the Duo Eater army didn't dare to cross the river and was defeated instead. After they gathered by the river, they were surrounded. Our people actually opened up a gap for them to call for reinforcements. Now, not only did we capture the Duo Eater in the encirclement, we also forced the enemy reinforcements to not dare to fight or retreat. Zhang Xiaobao said happily after reading the telegram. The smile on Wang Wan's face also increased. Of course they don't dare to retreat. If they retreat again, they will give up the area where they are going to harvest the food. It seems that we will have to continue to force our way to the northwest. We will run to the north bank of the Naga River and choose a key area to patrol along the river. We will not let any supplies from the Indian side pass through. At the same time, we will stop the Duoshi people from escaping to cross the river when we attack this line. With that said, Wang Wan opened the map and pointed at the river basin. This time, they could be considered to have completed the strategic deployment with their attacking troops. No matter what, it was impossible to determine a perfect strategy before this. The battle situation could change at any time. controlling a supply line that might appear, and blocking the duo Sher people's path of retreat, was a very important strategic arrangement. If their troops did not come, they would not have been able to control this line. The duo Sher people were fighting across borders. They had arranged for manpower in the Indian territory. Originally, it was to attack the Tibetan Lhasa city from this side. Now it was changed to defense to contain their troops. Otherwise, their troops would continue to head northwest. After crossing the Indian River, they would directly attack the duo Sher people's territory diagonally. Wang Wan still thought highly of this opponent. She said, "As expected of the country that once defeated our Tang army, their strategic deployment is pretty good. The history book said that they made a small country betray us and caused us to suffer a crushing defeat. This time, they also know how to contact India and help them resupply. But we are here. Our troops are too conservative. Why should we control the Naga River? Send a telegram back and tell them that we will march parallel to them to the northwest. We will resupply the horses there. Let them only push forward when the logistics can keep up. The duo Sher people will not know about this. We will control the airspace. The speed of the other people on the land is not as fast as us." Someone immediately went to send the report. Zhang Xiaobao came over to look at the map. He stretched out his hand to measure the distance and said hesitantly, "It's too far. We have to cross the Naga River first, then continue to head northwest and cross the Indian River. Just the journey alone will take more than 2 months. And that is under the condition that we have sufficient animal power. You can use a few years for an economic attack. Is 2 months too long for a military attack?" Wang Wan said as she rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao. Chapter 1320. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also heard about Su Yilong and her brother Xiao Yuan's poetry gambling. The two just smiled and did not pay much attention to it. They knew that it was impossible for Xiao Yuan to take the initiative to propose a bet. It must be Su Yilong who wanted to make some money. Moreover, Su Yilong was asked to come over to play with the little guys. Back then, Su Yilong had planned to find additional opportunities to earn money while playing with Xiao Bei and the others. In the end, she did not bring him along. The investment amount of the little guys was too large. He wanted to participate, but he could not afford the capital. After leaving Idyll, it was even more impossible for him to find opportunities to make money. Earning money in the Sixxiao places? That was all bartering. He could only follow and watch. Now that he was really upset, he wanted to compete with the little guys and earn some money to comfort himself. Moreover, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also clearly knew that Su Yilong seemed to admire the 9 little guys very much. She was shocked by the previous contact. Along the way, she always wanted to find an opportunity to show her ability. In that case, let them play. Although it was also gambling, gambling on poetry was better than gambling on dice. Actually, I have always thought that gambling is not good. Zhang Xiaobao said along with Su Yilong and Xiao Yuan's gambling. Wang Wan did not say anything. She blinked twice and stared at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao was embarrassed by her stare and said, "Gambling without a purpose is not good. I used to gamble with a purpose. Do you agree? The purpose of gambling is to win. Everyone is the same. Don't find excuses. That dice made you listen. You really don't feel ashamed." Wang Wan admired Zhang Xiaobao's gambling skills, but she would not agree with Zhang Xiaobao, who said that the purpose of gambling is to win. Is there no one who deliberately loses money? For example, you relied on your identity and found that you had no money in hand. What should you do? Isn't it? It's fine as long as I catch you. You have money, so I don't need to gamble with others. Actually, I can make money by catching people. Moreover, I don't need to go through that kind of soul-stirring process and frighten others. Wang Wan said to Zhang Xiaobao with a smile. She pointed to the circle on the map and asked, "Have you thought of a way? Gambling? How do you know?" Zhang Xiaobao revealed a shocked expression, and his body even moved backwards to hide, giving people the feeling that his thoughts had been seen through. Wang Wan leaned forward. "I'm your wife. You've already reminded me. Otherwise, why would you mention Xiao Yuan and Su Yilong's gambling for no reason? Would you care about winning or losing a few hundred hits? Husband, am I right? Don't. Many people are watching. Zhang Xiaobao had a bashful look on his face. The people around him didn't look at him, and didn't move their ears. Obviously they were used to it. If it were other rich people, this would be very rude. However, they felt that it was normal for their young master and young lady to flirt together. Only mortals would care about other people's thoughts, while little immortals were unrestrained. Moreover, although the two people were so intimate, the plan that came out during the intimate process was accompanied by blood. Listening to it could also increase one's knowledge. The people beside the donkey cart, including the donkey pulling the cart, were very calm. Zhang Xiaobao was even more calm. Seeing Wang Wan's beautiful big eyes staring at him, he said gently, "Madam, you've seen through my little plan. Since that's the case, why don't we have an in-depth communication?" "Okay." Wang Wan's voice was even more charming. "Husband, how do you want to communicate? How do we go in depth? For example, we can compete with them in hunting in the mountains and diving in the lake. The two of us and the 9 little guys will participate. I believe that Xiaobei and the rest won't drop the ball at the crucial moment." Zhang Xiaobao said. That's deep enough. How do we communicate?" Wang Wan also did not doubt that her younger brother and sister would be worse than others in the water. Especially Xiaobei, whose talent in the water was almost demonic. After this battle, they would go back and hold a large-scale sports meet between the Tang Empire and the surrounding countries. Then they would let Xiaobei participate in water sports such as diving, swimming and so on. They would use a video recorder to record it and show it to the people of the Tang Empire. Zhang Xiaobao also had the same idea. He wanted to add a few more sports such as shooting. When the others were absent, the people of his country could compete by themselves. He and Wang Wan could also participate in the frisbee game. He had not played for a long time and missed it. "What else?" Wang Wan asked again. "I plan to get their people to follow the team. Otherwise, it would be a pity to kill them. To be honest, when you mention Tisper, I don't think of India, but chronicles of the western regions. It also says that the current ruling class is no longer the same as when the little monk came out. The previous leader of the Kamal Nagbo kingdom has changed. And I remember that around this region, the religions are very chaotic. Of course, it's not as chaotic as my Chinese religion. When a religion exists in a place, not only does it show that there are different beliefs, but it also reflects war, bloodshed, and sacrifice. The conflicts between religions are no different from the conflicts between countries. And some countries are religious countries themselves. Since that's the case, why can't we help them? Can we bear to see them suffer in this place, be despised, bullied, and then live a difficult life?" As Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, the corners of his mouth turned down and his head tilted up. His eyes were filled with unyielding grief and anger. "You want me to vomit, don't you? Just say that you plan to trick them into working as laborers. Why do you need to find so many excuses? Indeed, it's no longer the era of the Kamal. It's been replaced by the Maricha clan. The entire region is very large, including a section of the Ganges. Even in our time, it hasn't changed much. The caste system still exists. It's a very important aspect of the Two Rivers Basin in India. Tell me your complete plan. Don't mention anything about helping others." Look, even the donkey is laughing. What Wang Wan wanted to hear now was Zhang Xiaobao's comprehensive plan. Just now, he had tapped his face with his fingers for a while. She hadn't seen him like this for a long time. She definitely wouldn't believe that he didn't have a series of plans that could be used to scheme against others. Zhang Xiaobao became shy for a moment. "No, there's no comprehensive plan. I just want to deal with the other parties, 3,000 people first. Look, they helped Duosher. I've already guessed the reason. It's probably because Duosher promised them that after occupying Lhasa City, he would continue to occupy Qinghai Lake. In this way, we can provide an endless supply of salt to others. Living in this era where people start a war for salt, I don't know if I should be happy or sad for those who died in battle." Wang Wan first glared at Zhang Xiaobao and said, "I know about the salt, but your purpose is definitely not that simple. It's just like the economic invasion plan against Duosher that can be implemented immediately. Then you wait and see if that's the case." Zhang Xiaobao didn't say anything. He looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Let's wait and see. Humph. Are you planning to give salt to these 3,000 people? Wang asked. She felt that if Zhang Xiaobao really used salt as a bet, the other party wouldn't be able to resist. Salt was really too cheap and too expensive. During her and Xiaobao's time, no one would buy a lot of salt and table salt. Of course, industrial salt needed a lot. The salt they ate was too much. The least valuable thing was salt. It was the same all over the world. It wasn't because salt couldn't make money, but because no one dared to use salt to make money. Many countries were destroyed by salt. As long as a salt tax was collected in every dynasty, as long as a portion of people controlled the price of salt, it meant that the dynasty was about to end. Salt was the most basic standard to measure social stability. It was more forward-looking than food. The lack of food was the fundamental impetus for a country's instability. The rise in the price of salt was the beginning of the instability. It was such a common thing that no one could live without. Therefore, the people who enjoyed the low price of salt should be grateful to this regime. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang's thoughts were the same, so the words he replied at this moment were also in line with Wang's thoughts. I want to give them some salt first, then bet on their ability to survive in the jungle and mountains, the ability to dive and catch fish, or the speed of swimming, etc. If they win, we'll keep half of the salt and guarantee that the salt they eat in the future will be free. What if we win? Wang played along and asked. If we win, they have to follow our team forward. We'll provide them with the salt they need along the way, and they'll help us hunt and pick wild vegetables. At the same time, after we win, we can still provide them with a large amount of salt, but they have to work in exchange. As long as they work for a day, they can get 20 to 100 grams of salt, depending on their efficiency and the danger of the work. For example, mining. In just 12 hours of mining, they can get 100 grams of salt. 100 grams. Zhang Xiaobao said seriously, as if the reward was very high. Do you dare to say this to the people of our time? 100 grams is equal to 2 taels of salt, right? A good well was 5 yuan per caddy, so you can earn 1 yuan per day from mining, right? A caddy of ordinary northeastern rice is more than 7 yuan. Wang was amused by Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao's expression was so serious that it made people feel that it was not 100 grams of salt, but gold. Zhang Xiaobao was discouraged and said with a smile, I'm telling the truth. You can't always use the rules of another era to measure the things in front of you. I know that salt is worthless and gasoline and diesel are worthless. Maritime satellite phones have been eliminated because all mobile phones are directly connected to satellites and have global coverage. The problem is, do you have it now? If you really want to talk about it, who will give me my yachts and private jets? Do I need to take a donkey cart? I'm not here to experience life as a tourist. This is the happiness and sorrow of the era, and the helplessness and suffering under the suppression of technology. Let's help them. I think we can just use salt to open the road in the future. We don't need to exchange other goods, especially your follow-up economic means. Why use this and that? Salt is enough, Wang said. No, there needs to be luxury goods for the upper class. The better the upper class enjoys, the angrier the people are. When a regime is rotten to a certain extent, it is the moment they enjoy the best luxury goods. Take this opportunity to attack them, and their people will no longer support their upper class. When the people of a country ruled by a regime are living well, and the power of the ruler is restricted, you must not attack. You can't win just like America. Wang did not wait for Zhang Xiaobao to finish and said 2 words. Chapter 13:21. The team continued to move forward. In the evening, they found a spacious place to set up camp and sent out scouts to spread out in all directions. In the middle of the night, the scout at the front came back and reported that he had found signs of human activity in the area. There was the light of torches. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang did not expect to be so close to the other side. According to the distance and the time it took for the scouts to travel, they estimated that they had only traveled about 20 miles. While telling the scouts to rest, Zhang Xiaobao got up to discuss with Wang. What's there to talk about? Who said that all people can only live together? 3,000 people. Do you think this lousy place is suitable for so many people to live together? What the scouts saw should be a small group of people with a bad status in the group. They are arranged to live outside. When they encounter danger, they have to report to the people inside. If they encounter an enemy, they can resist for a while. Moreover, there must be flat land around the people inside, suitable for farming. Wang Wan analyzed from the social hierarchy. Zhang Xiaobao thought about it and said, "If it were me, I would be very willing to live outside, especially the river next to it. I would rather guard it than go back and live with more people. I don't need many, just give me 100 people to manage. That's enough. You stay, we'll go back. You use salt to hire 100 people. I'll come and see you in 3 years." Wang Wan smiled and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Bickering, what I mean is development. What development can we get by staying in a ditch? How can we expect a Brahmaputra river? Every year, the floods will confuse them, not to mention how to use it. What is this place? Look, it's going to rain again. The weather is so stuffy. They live here and really rely on the weather to make a living. It was not easy to grow wheat, but when the heavy rain comes, it will be washed away. Who cares? It's different outside. For example, on the road we came here, there is a large plain formed by the river. This river is not very wide. The current is not very fast. And the deepest place when crossing the river is only about 4 meters. Find a place with a more stable mountain to build a house. Then raise cattle, sheep, pigs, and poultry, such as ducks and geese. Build terrace fields on the mountains opposite, plant wheat, and grow rice in the alluvial land below. Is it better to set up wooden rafts on the river, hang fishing nets, dry the fish caught in the nets, and store the food than not being close to the river? How good is your life?" Zhang Xiaobao went along with his own thoughts. He felt that the locals did not know how to live and would not become rich. They threw away all their advantages and squeezed there to live. Now that there was no strategic location there, why bother? As Wang Wan listened to Zhang Xiaobao, she suddenly thought of Sanshui County. At that time, it was only a medium-sized county. The river did not connect to the capital. Life at home was not bad. It was close to the mountains and the water. The life of a farmer was far worse than that of the people in the capital. What should be used was not used. It was not that the locals did not want to use it, but they did not know how to. They were used to a way of life. If they wanted to change, they needed a lot of courage and courage. If it were not for her and Xiaobao, perhaps the life of a farmer would still be the same. Sanshui County would still be the original Sanshui County. How could it become the first county of Tang dynasty? Wait for the future. Wang Wan heard the thunder outside, but she was not worried. When they set up camp, they had already considered this situation. There was no danger at all, even if it was raining heavily. Wait for the future. Zhang Xiaobao began to put on his coat. During the day, he was not tired sitting in the carriage. At night he had rested enough. Now was the time to take a look at the camp, especially the little ones. When they saw the rain, they ran out excitedly. Wang Wan also put on her coat. She was not wearing the normal clothes of this era. Those kinds of clothes were strenuous. Now it was popular to use buttons and chains. After putting on her coat, she said to Zhang Xiaobao, "When we occupy this place in the future, you can tell the Tang people your idea and let them build it. They can even build a simple dam. We can't count on the locals. They don't know how to build dams. Our Tang people are smart. When there is no cement and steel, they can build dams one after another. Why do we need special high-grade cement to reinforce the canals? Wisdom. That's right. We are so smart. India is so poor. After more than 1,000 years of development, they want to compete with us? It will tire them out. But it is because they are stupid that many species that have disappeared from our place are preserved. Our people are too smart. Animals and plants are no match for us. Today there is one species, tomorrow there will be 2 pairs. Then when we talk about something, we look at Bangladesh and India. I really can't say whether it is right or wrong." Zhang Xiaobao really looked down on the people here. He felt that they were not a threat and could be bullied whenever he wanted. After so many years of development, China did not even have a place of its own. India still had a large area of empty land and a large population. How could it be crowded? The most interesting thing was that as a Buddhist country, they did not have their own historical records. They had to write their own history, based on other people's records. How sad was this? An ordinary civilization could not do this. Thinking of history, Zhang Xiaobao could not help but laugh. Wang Wan was puzzled. When she walked out of the tent, she asked, "Are you very happy?" "Just so. When the little monk came, he made people speechless. He called him Mahayana God, liberating God, and so on. Later, when I write a travel book, India will use it to compile its own history. Now let's have someone write a history and tell the Indians that they used to be slaves of the Tang dynasty. They should continue to be slaves. Anyway, they still have the slave system now. How much trouble can we save, right?" Zhang Xiaobao chuckled as he spoke of his idea. It was as if he was very happy to be able to fool others. Wang Wan stood outside and looked at the sky. There was no trace of the moon and stars. It was pitch black. The sound of the diesel generator could be heard. The searchlight shone up and dark clouds could be seen rolling in the sky. After hearing Zhang Xiaobao's words, she curled her lips. How free. If you have the time, why don't you let people write books? Our textbooks are much worse, especially the basic language. There are very few good articles. Children learn from the moment they are born. Their intelligence can't keep up. Do you think they are like Xiaoyuan? Children waste a lot of time on the basics of language. Why don't you design more books for language teaching? To put it more bluntly, when they grow up, they can slowly learn more things. When that time comes, those who don't want to learn don't learn. It's not necessary to write the book of songs to be amazing. You can also launch satellites into the sky. That's where you are wrong. People who have the ability to launch satellites have a good foundation in literature. At the same time, they have a solid foundation in foreign languages. For example, people like me are better at learning foreign languages. Zhang Xiaobao praised himself without blushing. You are trying to fool people, not to launch satellites. Oh, you can also say that you are trying to launch satellites. Do you know Indian? The little monk came over and had a good communication. Wang Wan thought of a problem. Not to mention here, there were many dialects that she could not learn. How did Tang speak to people in the past? One language could be used everywhere. Zhang Xiaobao puffed up his chest and said, I do know a little Indian language, and I can still use it now. The Indian language hasn't changed much, just like our Tang dynasty. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to understand the poem at all. When I read it, I realized that the rhythm and other things are exactly the same. It's just that the pronunciation of the words needs to be read according to the poem. For example, slant can be read as xia, hui can be read as huan, and huai, and so on. It's much easier than memorizing words. Then when you meet the other party, you will be in charge of communicating. If you can't, get someone to find chronicles of the western regions and compare it to the situation. Wang Wan gave Zhang Xiaobao a task. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head and nodded. I can communicate with the other party, but I can't compare it to what the little monk wrote. It's too fake. After he translated it, I can't read it. It feels like the people here are like us and can speak classical Chinese casually. Who am I trying to fool? I took a few glances and then stopped. It's boring and I don't need it. I'm not here to have a normal cultural and technological exchange with them. As the two of them were talking, the rain poured down. The two of them put on their raincoats and rain boots and strolled around the tents. Xiaobei and the others woke up as expected. They also put on their raincoats and stood outside the big tent to look at the sky. Every time there was a flash of lightning in the sky, they would cover their ears and wait for the sound of thunder. The rumbling sound seemed very interesting to them. If you don't enter the tent, do you want to be struck by lightning? When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan came over, the little guys didn't notice. They were startled by Zhang Xiaobao's shout. Oh, I thought there was a sudden thunder in our ears. We came out to take a look. It's stuffy inside the tent, so the lightning won't strike us. There are lightning rods set up higher up. In fact, we want to see how the lightning looks when it hits the lightning rods. Brother, you said that lightning is also electricity. If we can use it, then we don't need to use other things to generate electricity, right? Xiaobei stepped on the gathered water and jumped in front of Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao nodded first and then shook his head. Lightning is indeed electricity, and the voltage and current are not small. If the electricity of one lightning bolt can be stored, it will definitely be enough for more than 10,000 people to use for half a year. But because there is too much energy, we don't have a way to store it. It comes and goes quickly, unless there is a way to slow down the speed of the lightning when it disappears unnaturally. If there is such a technique, it is enough for us to collect more energy. Why do we have to focus on collecting lightning? Oh, is it because our technique is not good enough? Xiaobei said disappointedly. Yes, you're still far from it. It's not easy to conquer nature. Moreover, there are many masterpieces in nature. For example, in movies, under the circumstances of special topography and rock structure, as well as the current thunderstorm, some images and sounds can be recorded. When the next thunderstorm occurs, it can be reproduced. It is the same principle as the equipment we use to shoot movies. Humans learn a lot of things when they adapt and study nature. So the subject of nature is not simple. Zhang Xiaobao explained to his younger siblings. We can already film, but we are here. I don't know if it will be screened. I want to film many movies in the future, Xiaobei said. Chapter 13:22. Due to the shape of the earth and the fact that he had nothing to do, the morning in Chang'an came earlier than where Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were at. Li Longji woke up not long after Xiaobei said that she was looking forward to him making many movies. Last night, he slept with the Empress and concubine Wu. He didn't dare to let the ministers know about this. Otherwise, they would definitely postpone other matters during the morning court session and start discussing etiquette with the emperor. After all, the empress had a high status and couldn't sleep with other women. If Li Longji wanted to sleep with a few more women, he could, but he had to get up and move to another place. It wouldn't be easy for him to sleep with 2 or more women. Not only did the ministers refuse, but the women also refused. Unless he didn't say that he was the emperor and went to a brothel, then there wouldn't be a problem. Of course, it wasn't just 2 women. Even if it was just 1 woman, it couldn't be during the day. Otherwise, the ministers would object and find many reasons to make the emperor lower his head. It wasn't that Li Longji hadn't been pointed at and scolded in the morning court session, but he hid his matters with women well. The palace maids and eunuchs wouldn't talk about it. Empress Wang and concubine Wu, who shouldn't have been able to spend the night with him, agreed to it now. The 2 of them also couldn't talk about sleeping with the emperor at night. Otherwise, the people who heard them would go crazy. Li Longji, who woke up early in the morning, was full of energy and didn't look weak at all. Previously, during the morning court session, the ministers said that the imperial physicians should be heavily rewarded. They were the ones who took good care of the emperor's body. Li Longji rewarded the imperial physicians according to the minister's words. The imperial physicians took the reward money and sent half of it to the savant's restaurant to be deposited in the donation box. First, it was to repay the kindness. Their medical skills were getting better and better because of the medical school. The medical school had 2 sets of profits. One was the normal profits of traditional Chinese medicine, and the other was the utilitarian profits. They would give eye drops when their eyes hurt, and not use the Bezor detoxification pill to check if the patient was heady. The 2 theories could influence and promote each other, making the imperial physician's medical skills even more exquisite. Sometimes, when they encountered an official who was ill, they would also give him anesthetic to perform surgery to save time. Otherwise, if they used acupuncture and ointment, the treatment would take several months. Secondly, the imperial physicians knew that the emperor's good complexion was not only due to their help in looking after him, but also because of the emperor's own judgment. The emperor was in a good mood, and his diet was good. He was not tired usually, and when he had nothing to do, he would go out of the palace for a stroll. Of course, he would be healthy. However, the credit didn't fall on their heads. It was Xiao Bao and Cuckoo who planned it well. Unlike the previous emperor, who was washed away by water today, and had no money or food, and who was crushed by snow the next day, and had no people or goods, the ministers came up with a plan. They needed to repair the river banks and pave the roads. The national treasury was still in debt. In addition, The people in various places were playing the game of rebellion, and the surrounding countries were attacking the passes and border areas. When the imperial physicians thought about it, they felt scared and worried to death. That was why they said that it was not easy to be the emperor. However, with Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, things became simple. As long as the local officials were not stupid and not greedy, they would follow the procedures, and the losses would be very small. For example, when it was raining heavily, the local officials would ask the people to evacuate and wait for the flood to come back. When the houses collapsed and the fields were flooded, the local garrison would be mobilized. They would treat it as training for the construction of fortifications, and would fix it for you. If you lost something valuable at home, if you reported it, the fund would compensate you. If you wanted to cheat others, once your neighbor exposed you, the problem would be serious. The surrounding countries had been properly dealt with by the two of them over the years, so now the emperor didn't seem to have anything to worry about. Based on these 2 points, the imperial physicians donated half of the money. They didn't dare to take the full credit. They also knew that the donated money didn't belong to the Zhang family and the Wang family. They wouldn't use it themselves, but at least it would make them take less money when they took out money. When Li Longji knew of this situation, he was very gratified and relieved. Otherwise, he would really consider changing the imperial physicians. It was not a good thing for the imperial physicians to be too selfish. He decided to give the imperial physicians some benefits, so he spoke first during the morning court. After the officials greeted each other, Li Longji returned the greeting. In the past, it was rare for the emperor to not greet the officials in front of everyone. Today he was very happy because yesterday evening, he heard that 80% of the people from Xinhua in Japan, who had brought their children to participate in the competition, had decided to stay in the Tang dynasty before the competition ended. Xiao Bei and the other 9 little fellows had suggested that Xiaobao and Huan's plan to replenish the troops had succeeded. Those who remained would be sent back after half a year. In the name of being dispatched, they would be sent to spread the good news of the great Tang. Coupled with the invasion of the people's livelihood, it would take at most a year for Xinhua to collapse first, followed by Japan. This year's autumn harvest was still Xinhua's cotton. They didn't exchange it for food, but for money from the Tang dynasty. Japan also planted special economic crops, not food, and they also exchanged it for money from the Tang dynasty. There didn't seem to be any disadvantages. With the Sinangxi's research, productivity increased. The Tang dynasty's food was cheap, very cheap. The Tang dynasty's money could buy food that was much better than the local food of the two countries. However, the problem lay in the human nature that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo said. To them, the Tang dynasty's money was foreign exchange. Foreign exchange could be used to buy food, and they wouldn't be able to finish it even if they ate. In reality, the ruling class wouldn't buy food. They would use the money to buy luxury goods. The result was that the common people did not have enough food. The common people were not fools. They knew how much grain the great Tang could buy with the money they had spent on 1 mu of cotton. Normally, half a mu of cotton could buy as much grain as they could buy with the money they had spent on 1 mu of cotton. Under such circumstances, if they planted cotton and realized that they were hungry in the end, what would happen to the money? They would know that the money was changed into beautiful clothes and ornaments by the people above them. At the same time, the descendants of the people above them would take the money to the Tang dynasty to enjoy life. The hidden danger of the people's hearts had been buried for several years. This year they would work harder. He didn't believe that they wouldn't give up their traditions and completely submit to the Tang dynasty. The more Li Longji thought about it, the more excited he became. He only doted on 2 women at night. Empress Wang and Wu Huifei were also happy about this matter and accompanied the emperor for half the night. I'll say 3 things first. Li Longji, who was happy and spoke first, said into the microphone. The officials began to look for a seat. There were small tables, stools, tea, and fruit juice behind them, but there were no snacks. They had to be prepared by themselves. But when it was time to eat, they would call you. Don't choke. Most of the officials sat down. They knew that today's morning court would take a long time. If they were tired from standing, They wouldn't have the energy to do serious things when they went back. Only a small number of newly promoted officials participated in the morning court for the first time today. They didn't expect that the morning court would be like this, because no one told them. Sit down. I feel annoyed when I see you standing. Those who stand may not be respectful to me, and those who sit may not be unsupportive of me. You'll get used to it in the future. Right now Li Longji liked this kind of atmosphere. He had been standing there for 4 hours. And when he turned around, he had taken what he should have taken. What was the use of him feigning compliance? Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had always not stood if they could sit, and they didn't sit if they could lie down. On the surface, they didn't seem to be respectful to him, but they did things beautifully. How much less did it make him worry? Those who were standing didn't dare to continue standing. Since the emperor had spoken, those who were standing might not be respectful. One by one, they sat down curiously and nervously. Then they looked at the others nearby. Some were drinking water, while others were secretly eating. It was really a morning court. Unfortunately, they didn't bring anything to eat. They didn't dare. Who knew it could be like this? Those who are secretly eating pay attention. There will be more food after the morning court. Don't regret it. The crab is coming. Today's soup dumplings provided by the Success House. Li Longji added. Those who were eating nodded and didn't stop eating. There was still a long time before the morning court ended. They couldn't wait hungry all the time. They would eat first and talk later. The newcomers were stunned. So this was what the morning court was like. They were even given a meal. The Success House was the restaurant of the Zhang family and the Wang family in Sanshui County. No wonder they both wanted to be officials in the capital. Of course, they didn't dare to be presumptuous because of the emperor's easygoing attitude. When they came, they sat in the carriage that made a lot of noise. However, when they saw the former officials standing on the Vermilion Bird Avenue, they all cried out miserably. It was said that the oldest one had been standing for several years and was still alive. The first thing is to commend. No, it's the autumn harvest. This year's autumn harvest is very important. We need to provide large amounts of supplies to the soldiers on the front lines. The soldiers are fighting in the front lines. When the new grain comes, send it to them first. We eat the old grain. I'll eat first. I won't eat new grain until the war stops. Li Longji basically wanted to talk about commending the imperial physicians, but when he said it, he realized that he should talk about proper business first. The autumn harvest. Your Majesty is wise. A voice suddenly sounded and echoed in Hanyuan Palace Hall. The others didn't make a sound. They sat upright. Those who were eating also stopped. Those who were drinking put down their cups. At this time, they couldn't eat and drink anymore. The emperor had spoken. It was disrespectful to eat and drink. The person who shouted had a flushed face. He was new and thought that everyone would shout. However, he found that the surroundings were too quiet. For a moment he didn't know what to do. Li Longji smiled and said, "Those who are new to the court, remember not to say such useless words. Of course I'm wise. The second thing is to reward the imperial physicians with a chance to film a movie. We'll publicize the deeds of the physicians in Tang dynasty." The crowd didn't make a sound. It wasn't a big problem. It was just a movie. After all, Zhang Xiaobao and the others were paying for it. If they wanted to film a movie in the future, they could find Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. The third thing is that my movie is already out, and there are many copies. Why don't we go to the movie theater that I built first to watch it together? If no one objects, we can eat soup dumplings first, and then go together. Li Longji swallowed twice as he spoke. He was also hungry. This subject dares not agree. Yu Wenrong stood up and looked directly at Li Longji. There's no harm in you saying it. Li Longji knew that things wouldn't go so smoothly. This subject hasn't discussed the matter at hand. It's not good to go watch a movie now, right? This subject thinks that we can get off work early in the afternoon, and then go watch a movie together. The autumn harvest is waiting. Yu Wenrong changed his righteous attitude, and spoke as if he was chatting. Chapter 13:23. Li Longji raised his head, and looked at the sky. It was indeed morning, so he could only suppress the idea of asking everyone to watch his movie. For a moment he seemed resentful. Until now, he still didn't know how much better a movie would be compared to a film made of glass. His subordinates had asked him if he could watch the movie while it was being produced. In order to give a surprise, he refused. It seemed that he still had to endure for a few more hours. Yuanrong didn't seem to see the emperor's expression. After he finished speaking, he gave the Minister of Revenue Wang Bei a look. Wang Bei had the urge to curse. "Why did you ask me to speak first? I'm in the Ministry of Revenue, not the Agriculture Temple. If you want to know about the autumn harvest, you should ask the Ministry of Works. The Ministry of Revenue can be discussed later." Even though he was thinking this way, Wang Ke's hands did not slow down. He took the small microphone on the table, turned it on, and gently blew on it. A sound came from the loudspeaker hanging 5 meters behind him. He said into the microphone, "This year, according to the news from the Agriculture Temple of the Ministry of Works, there aren't many disasters. The output of rice in the north and wheat in the south should be much higher than in previous years. In order to avoid harming the farmers, the Ministry of Revenue has prepared 20 million strings of money for Chongpingsong. When the main crops are harvested, Chongpingsong will stabilize the grain price of our Great Tang. At the same time, the peddlers from all over the country will cooperate to prevent the grain price from being artificially lowered." After speaking, Wang Bei immediately turned off the microphone, as if it was burning his hand. When the officials heard this, they were satisfied. Moreover, they knew that the peddlers from all over the country had nothing to do with the peddlers. They were all powerful merchants. With them cooperating to stabilize the new grain price, there shouldn't be any problem. Li Longji didn't consider the problem of the new grain price at all. He didn't think that anyone would dare to lower the grain price at such a critical time. This was because Panner and Panner had said that Baby Candy House had stopped making cakes for some time in order to support the previous war. In other words, if they didn't touch Chongpingsong, the Great Tang would have enough grain. When the new grain came, as long as Xiaobei and the others gave the order, Baby Candy House would be able to use a lot of the new cakes. Hearing Wang Bei's words, Li Longji felt that Wang Bei was implying something. He asked, "Wang Bei, did you notice any bad signs recently? Someone wants to destabilize the price of our Great Tang's new grain?" Wang Bei turned on the microphone again. After thinking for a while, he said, "Your Majesty, ever since Xiaobao proposed the national policy of allowing the locals to organize and sell the food in various places, and then use the money to pay taxes, the food production has indeed increased to a certain extent, just as he had predicted at the beginning." "What's a certain degree?" Li Longji asked. "It's because all the people are concentrated in the production, from farming to field management, to fertilizing and weeding, and now the harvest in most areas. The output is estimated to be 30% to 50% higher than before when each household worked alone." Wang Ke replied. He really didn't want to reveal this data. This was all thanks to Zhang Xiaobao. Before this, no one would have thought that when implemented according to the policy, it would produce such good results. Those who had taken over other people's land were very reasonable in the distribution of labor when working, and at the same time, the management of the fields was more perfect. Many officials were unaware of this matter. When they heard Wang Bei's words, they all widened their eyes in disbelief. 30% to 50%. Although there wasn't a specific number because the harvest hadn't been completed yet, it was clear just by looking at the estimated data. At the very least, it would increase output by at least 30%. 30%. Last year's grain output was already high enough. Compared to some years ago, the current annual grain output was more than 3 times that of last year. If this foundation was increased by 30%, the Great Tang's grain supply would be assured. The land was the same, and it was just that the Agriculture Temple had been doing better and better in recent years. However, the sudden increase in grain output was still inconceivable. "Why is that so?" Li Longji asked, feeling very happy. Wang Bei took a deep breath and replied, "This subject has asked someone. It's because those who rent other people's land and then centralize management are all very smart. Those who aren't capable wouldn't dare to rent other people's land. During the centralization of management, regardless of whether it was the effect of fertilization or the subsequent weeding, there would be people watching over the fields. Moreover, they could adjust the amount of water in the fields according to the changes in weather. If it didn't rain for a few days, there would be people watering the fields. If it rained continuously, there would be people letting the fields water. Compared to the management of the fields last year, the people who grow grain for the people who rent it only need to be responsible for the problems in the fields and don't need to worry about other matters. In the words of the Ministry of Works, it's a change from multiple jobs to a single job. This subject has to admit that Xiaobao's move is very effective. Not only did it reduce the number of people working in the fields and let them do other jobs, increasing the overall income of Great Tang, it also increased the efficiency of the people in the field. On the one hand, it increased the number of people working in other jobs, and on the other hand, it increased the production rate of the fields in the unit. This is something that this subject didn't expect before. With fewer people and centralized management, the grains grew better. This subject is impressed. As for the other matters, this subject feels that it's better for the Minister of Works, Zhang Zhong, to explain. He knows more than this subject. Wang Bei unwillingly used facts to praise Zhang Xiaobao, and then threw another matter to Zhang Zhong to see how Zhang Zhong would explain. A few other people who knew the inside story began to snicker. They felt that the battle between Wang Bei and Zhang Zhong was very interesting. Both of them used various methods to carry out a tacit exchange of interests. It was impossible to say that they were supporting each other, but it was impossible to say that they were undermining each other. It depended on the specific situation. Sometimes they could even work together. This kind of battle would definitely be very annoying to ordinary people. But it was a scene to see in the court. It was just a game. In any case, it was impossible for one of them to really kill the other. If Wang Bei really had the opportunity to blacken Zhang Zhong through this kind of battle, and then the emperor ordered Zhang Zhong to be killed, it was likely that Wang Bei would first stand up to protect him. On the other hand, if it was Wang Bei, Zhang Zhong would also stand up to protect him. The two of them each had their own forces. They just liked to fight, but they didn't intend to kill each other. They didn't even want to fight each other to the point that the other party quit. How boring would that be? Now that Wang Bei had handed the troublesome matter to Zhang Zhong, a portion of people who knew the inside story watched the show. Zhang Zhong still had that simple and honest appearance of his, that was wholeheartedly devoted to the country. In addition, he was still holding a pencil and moving it around in a notebook. At first glance, he gave people the impression that he was an honest person who worked seriously. After Wang Bei changed the topic, Zhang Zhong was still writing something. Li Longji coughed into the microphone, and Zhang Zhong continued to write. Minister Zhang Yongqing, it's your turn. Li Longji had no choice but to use a more serious tone. Zhang Zhong, who was writing something, raised his head as if he had just woken up. He looked at the emperor blankly. Li Longji was puzzled and said, Minister Zhang, stand up that notebook of yours and let me see. Zhang Zhong didn't dare to disobey, and could only stand up helplessly. The people nearby and across from him saw that there were a few cute cartoon pigs drawn on the notebook. There were even circles of lines that the pigs were saying. The words weren't small, so Wang Bei, who was beside Zhang Zhong, deliberately read it out loud. I am a good little pig. I sleep early and wake up early. When I eat until I'm full. The flowers and birds smile at me. Brother Yongqing, good poem. Haha. I didn't expect that the top scorer, Brother Yongqing's writing is better than before. When the others heard Wang Bei read it out loud, they couldn't help but laugh. Even Li Longji couldn't help but laugh. This was someone who had once been the top scorer in the imperial examinations. How could he write something like this? Zhang Zhong's honest face blushed slightly, and he hurriedly explained, I wrote a children's song for my family's auspicious luck. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo aren't around, so my family's inner court has been taking care of it. As a father and uncle, I should write something for my families Xiao Bao and Bei Bei. I would like to write, today's spring is waiting for autumn. The flowing water and floating clouds should be like this. But the little ones have to be able to understand. If Xiao Bao and Yaoan were here, I wouldn't have to practice such ugly stick figures. For the sake of the children, so what if I'm the top scorer? After Zhang Zhong finished speaking, everyone stopped laughing at him. Even Wang Bei, who was nearby, gave Zhang Zhong a blessing smile. Everyone knew that Zhang Zhong's son and daughter-in-law weren't able to play with their younger siblings at the moment. They were fighting for the country at the borders. Thus, the education of the four little fellows had to be handed over to others. However, the results couldn't compare to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's personal education. This was a sacrifice. If anyone was unconvinced, they could take a look at Bei Bei's 9 children. At that time, they would understand everything. Yongqing, you've worked hard. Now let's talk about the consequences of Xiaobao's policy. After the royal court, I'll personally visit the 4 little fellows and bring them to watch a movie together. We're very willing to do something for the soldiers at the front lines. Li Longji looked to the west and sighed emotionally as he spoke to Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong put away his notebook and smiled embarrassedly at the others. He asked in a low voice and knew what Wang Bei was talking about. He said, Xiaobao's policy has increased the production efficiency of our Great Tang's various industries to a certain extent. However, due to the policy, it has also revealed a portion of the smart people. This portion of smart people not only have strong coordination and management skills, they also know how to maximize their own benefits. This subject has heard that a portion of them have already banded together to increase their income during the autumn harvest. They intend to not sell their grain and create a situation where there is a shortage of grain in the market. This will raise the price of the grain in their hands. This subject has already contacted Xiaobao, but there hasn't been any news yet. I believe that it won't be long before Xiaobao's countermeasure reaches this subject. At that time, this subject will follow the plan. At this moment, Zhang Zhong didn't deliberately distance himself from this matter. He directly said that he had sent news to his son. Li Longji and the other officials nodded. Just as they were about to speak, someone ran in and shouted, reporting, the 6 edicts of submission have been delivered. The 6 edicts of submission have submitted. Chapter 1324. The officials were confused. Li Longji stared at the newcomer. He knew him, Luo Bin, a eunuch who had been with him for a long time. He was now in charge of the emergency messaging between the Zhang family and the Wang family. As long as a telegram was sent to Luo Bin's department, it would be delivered to him, whether he was sleeping or sleeping. Even if he was sick, as long as he was awake, the message would be delivered to him. What did he mean by saying that the 6 Xiao had submitted? The 6 Xiao didn't submit? Where did he get the news? Obviously, it wasn't something that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo could send. The officials also knew Luo Bin's identity. The eunuch from back then was now old, but he didn't have a wife. He said that he didn't want to harm other women, but he sent a lot of money to his family. It wasn't because he was greedy, but because he received benefits. What did his arrival have to do with the 6 Xiao's submission? Many people looked at Zhang Zhong, but Zhang Zhong returned a look that said, "I don't know either." Yuan Qinyao turned on the microphone and coughed lightly. He asked, "The 6 Xiao have always belonged to the Tang Empire. Why would they submit?" Luo Bin looked at Yuan Qinyao, then at His Majesty. Seeing that His Majesty nodded, he wanted to shout at the top of his lungs. Suddenly, he reacted and ran to the nearest official, picked up the microphone on the table, and turned it on. "Your Majesty, it's true that the 6 Xiao have always belonged to the Tang Empire, but the 6 Xiao have their own territories. Although there are hostages in the capital, they resist the Tang Empire's orders. They don't pay taxes and only pay tributes. The value of their rewards is always more than the tributes they pay. Now the people left behind by Xiao Bao and Cuckoo in Kuan province are helping them to send secret messages to the hostages in the capital. The hostages will write the submission letters on their behalf. Before I came, I went to find the 6 Xiao's hostages and waited for them to finish writing the submission letters before coming." Luo Bin raised his hand and shook the few submissions he was holding. The officials, including Li Longji, understood a little, but more were still puzzled. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's last telegram said that they had left Yi province for Kuan province. They had probably arrived there, but they didn't understand the meaning of asking them to write another submission letter. "What else did the telegram say?" Li Longji asked. "Replying to Your Majesty, it also said that when we saw the telegram, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had already gone deep into the Indian region and were cooperating with our army on 3 fronts. We hope that the imperial court will take good care of the migration of the 6 Xiao people." Luo Bin replied respectfully. Zhang Zhong suddenly understood and said, "Xiao Bao and Cuckoo went to Yuzhou and left after seeing the people of the 6 Xiao. Did they leave some people behind?" "Yes, it was mentioned in the telegram." Luo Bin nodded towards where Zhang Zhong was and gave him a big smile. As for whether Zhang Zhong could see him from so far away, he didn't care. Li Longji waved his hand, and Luo Bin immediately trotted over and placed the 6 documents and a telegram on the table in front of His Majesty. Li Longji waved his hand again and waited for Luo Bin to retreat to the side. He picked up the telegram and looked at it. He nodded as he looked at it, and a smile appeared on his face. He then looked at the 6 submissions, and the contents were basically the same. It said that the Great Tang had obtained the power of the heavens and was willing to lead its own tribes to submit. Li Longji put down the submissions and said to the anxiously waiting officials, "We will tell you all about the situation. It's like this." Xiao Bao and Cuckoo left Yizhou to scare Zhenla. But before they reached Kuan province, Zhenla was really scared and thought that they were going to continue south. Thus, he sent an envoy to hurry and send someone to the Annan Protectorate. Yes, Zhenla was very anxious. They didn't care about the large number of troops stationed in the Protectorate, but they didn't dare to be unafraid of the 12,000 people led by Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. As for why, I believe all of you should know, hehe. Li Longji then explained the situation of Zhenla in detail. The officials also laughed. Of course, they knew that the combat power of the 10,000 people was not something that the tens of thousands of permanent border soldiers could compare to, especially when their commander was Cuckoo. When they went to fight Tubo, they were temporarily recruited. Now they had undergone many years of training. They could easily crush a small country like Zhenla. Even if it was the 100,000 regular soldiers on their side, They wouldn't dare to fight against the 10,000 personal guards of the two of them. They weren't even on the same level. Li Longji heard the laughter of the officials and gulped down 2 mouthfuls of tea. He then picked up the teapot beside him to refill his tea. He put down the teapot and continued. Thus, when Xiao Bao and Cuckoo realized that Jinla didn't send any more troops, they didn't care about them anymore. Instead, they stayed in Kuan Province's Dianqi Lake area and helped to point out the places that produced salt. They planned to transform Dianqi Lake in the future. At the same time, they discussed the issue of submission with the locals. They promised some benefits and left behind 200 people to help with the construction. When the people agreed, it was from the bottom of their hearts. They didn't use force to threaten them. Do you believe that? Do you? Yuan Qianyao said without much confidence. Furthermore, it was a question. I believe that with Xiao Bao around, there was no need to use force to deter them. Xiao Bao would give them good conditions. After that, the two of them continued to head north. When they passed by a few other places, they reached an agreement with a local person who was proficient in the affairs of the great Tang. This person was jointly sent by the other few Zhao. When Xiao Bao and Cuckoo left again, they sent people to the vicinity of Dianqi Lake. After discussing with each other, they used the telegrams in the hands of the 200 people left behind to send secret messages to their permanent hostages in the capital. Li Longji told the officials like he was telling a story. As the officials listened, they all had complicated emotions. They looked at Zhang Zhong with jealousy in their eyes. Wang Bei in particular was full of criticism. Wherever they went, it was peaceful. When they wandered around the Great Tang, everywhere they went, the local development would definitely speed up. When they wandered around the border, all the mountain people and barbarians would submit to them. What others could not handle, they would not have a problem when they arrived. It was the same for Lu Zhou. Back then, he thought that Zhang Zhong was powerful, but he was deceived. The real powerful ones were Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. At that time they were still very young. They solved the problem of the mountain people in Lu Zhou. Now they had become Lu Zhou's wolf army that supported his family. Later on, they developed well in Shu province. When they were sent to Wing province, many officials, including himself, thought that Zhang Zhong was sent to work. In the end, not only did they complete the logistics preparations for the frontline battle, but they also personally went to battle and won. The local villages in Wing province were also changed by them. It was also from then on that many people found out that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were powerful. Later on, they went to Buxin County and arranged for others to go there. All the people in the surrounding counties were dealt with, including the Japanese. From then on, the Great Tang had the Chaoyang operation. After a series of exchanges of interests, they were arranged to the northern area of Hebei province to manage Jili province. The ethnic situation there was complicated, and the relationship between the surrounding countries was complicated. There were many mountains, the land was barren, the population was small, and it was cold and bitter near the sea. However, such a place could not stop their rise. They gathered a large number of people in the surrounding area, suppressed all the local ethnic groups, opened ports, engaged in seawater farming, and conveniently cheated Xinhua, making countless resources there suddenly valuable. They also sent troops to distant places to bring back many seeds. They controlled the entire northern area of Hebei province. If they wanted to rebel, the Great Tang had no soldiers to fight against them. The winter there was too cold. Now they went to Yi province casually. Zhenla bent down and watched the other side take away the envoy he had sent out from the royal city. Not only did he not dare to retaliate, but he also came to ask for punishment. He borrowed the 6 edicts and submitted the letter of surrender. Zhang Zhong, how did you give birth to a child? We are both ministers. But why do people always think that I am inferior to you? Is it because you are capable? Isn't it because your son and daughter-in-law are there? What else do you have except for giving birth? After criticizing for a while, Wang Bei looked at Zhang Zhong with eyes full of resentment. Other people also had mixed feelings. They could not find an excuse to restrict Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. They were good at political struggles in the imperial court and supported the imperial power. At the same time, they were constantly making plans for the benefit of the people. They were also good at expanding the territory and stabilizing the border. They were also very thorough in the study of science and medicine. If such people wanted to find a fault to impeach, the result would be miserable. Even if His Majesty did not say anything, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family would withdraw the benefits of this person, and the impeacher would inevitably be isolated. What kind of situation would it be to be isolated in the officialdom? The impeacher could ignore the benefits of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family, but other people could know the attitude of Xiaobao and Cuckoo through the withdrawal of this benefit. It was too terrible. If one was isolated among colleagues, one's subordinates would naturally be isolated. Who would dare to follow one's lead? You are an official of the capital, but you have offended Xiaobao and Cuckoo. If local officials like us continue to follow them, we will end up in the same situation as what happened to Luzhou's provincial governor, Su Mingyang. There are countless delicacies in the city, but we can't eat a single grain of rice at home, and the people will refuse to sell to us. Everyone was thinking about their own matters. For a moment, Hanyuan Palace was quiet. The newly promoted people to participate in the morning court finally felt the power of Xiaobao and Cuckoo. They were thousands of miles away, but their influence on the imperial court was so great. Life was like this, and there were no regrets. Li Longji sat on the throne and slowly tasted his tea. The new tea that had just been delivered for more than a month, Westlake Longjing, was named by Xiaobao. It was not considered a tribute. It was just that the people of Xiaobao and Cuckoo's families would send tea when they had it. If it was not a good year, it would not be available. It was not a rule that tributes had to be sent every year. At the same time, it had to reach the best standard. If that was the case, he would not be able to drink good tea. If the year was not good, and the tributes did not produce good tea, the person who sent the tributes would be punished. Therefore, the tributes were usually not the best. Xiaobao was right. There was no need for tributes. If the weather was good this year, and there were good things, they could send them over if they were willing to. If there was not or did not want to send them next year, they would not have to send them. They would always be able to enjoy good things. The Longjing tea that he was drinking now was sent by the logistics of Xiao Bei's precious candy house. It was said that it was for Uncle Emperor to drink good tea. He did not know how much hardship the little fellows had suffered following Xiaobao and Cuckoo on the long journey. As Li Longji drank his tea, he thought of Xiao Bei and the others. The corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up, and there was a trace of longing in his expression. As for the silence in Hanyuan Palace, Li Longji did not care. It would be fine in a while. If there was a delay, he could just postpone the movie. After a while, Zhang Zhong broke the silence of the morning court. Your Majesty, this subject would like to know, what is the difference between this time's submission and the previous submission? Chapter 1325. Zhang Zhong's words echoed the thoughts of the others who had just regained their composure. Indeed, they should ask clearly. Before, the six Zhao were also vassals of the Tang Empire, and they had been conferred the title of king. Now they were saying that they would submit. If there was no difference from before, it would be useless even if they repeated it 100 times. The officials also admired Zhang Zhong for this. Zhang Zhong did not suppress the doubts in his heart, just because the people who sent the letters of submission were his relatives. Instead, he treated it as a very important matter to ask. If the letters of submission sent by the six Zhao were the same as before, wouldn't Xiaobao and Cuckoo lose a lot of face? Li Longji also admired Zhang Zhong's character. Facing the questioning eyes of the officials, he casually said, "It's a little different. In the past, they were called subjects, sent tributes and returned with more rewards. Now they don't mention subjects, only submission. Besides the kings of the six Zhao, the other important people in charge will be coming to the Tang Empire." Li Longji said it casually, but the others were not. They were actually sending people over, and important people at that. From His Majesty's words, it seemed that many people were coming. Then, didn't that mean that the kings of the six Zhao lacked capable people in management? How could they develop if they lacked capable people in management? Had the kings of the six Zhao all become fools? Your Majesty, there's one thing this official doesn't understand. The kings of the six Zhao sent their capable subordinates to the capital as hostages. Are they preparing to make their own people suffer? Yu Wenrong asked. Li Longji shook his head, a look of disappointment in his eyes. He looked at the officials one by one and asked, "Do you think that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo went there just to make the lives of the 6 Xiao more difficult?" Jiang Sun stood up and said, "This official absolutely does not believe it. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are brilliant at scheming, especially Xiao Bao, who has the greatest ability in economy and people's livelihood. How could he go there and make people's lives worse? Xiao Bao must have given the Lord of the 6 Xiao a generous offer that the Lord of the 6 Xiao could not refuse. What's more, didn't they leave behind 200 people? I believe that there is no need for this official to say how capable the inner courtyards of the Zhang family and Wang family are. With them around, what difference does it make whether or not the Lord of the 6 Xiao keeps his capable subordinates? 200 people are enough to support the administration of the entire 6 Xiao region, and it might even be a waste. To be honest, if the inner courtyards of the Zhang clan and Wang clan participate in the imperial examination, countless outstanding high scholars of Great Tang will fail the examinations and return home. Placing them as local officials, countless local officials would be ashamed to meet people. The reason why the imperial court dares to implement the policy of taking land from local officials with salaries is precisely because of this." Li Longji was delighted. His eyes narrowed into a smile as he said to Jiang Sun, "That's right. Since we've taken over the land, then so be it. If the local officials dare to collectively resign, then I'll have the inner courtyard of the Zhang family and Wang family take over. Perhaps it'll be even better than before they were dismissed." "Your Majesty's praise is wrong. My family's servants don't have this kind of ability, I'm afraid," Zhang Zhong hurriedly explained. "After more than a decade of teaching and nurturing, do you think I don't know what they're capable of? Even before that, when you were appointed as the provincial governor of Luzhou, you didn't train so many people, right? Your family's inner courtyard is already supporting Luzhou's administration and military affairs. Am I wrong?" Li Longji said bluntly, not giving Zhang Zhong a chance to explain himself. For a moment, Zhang Zhong did not know how to respond. Gao Lisher agreed with Li Longji and said, "Later on, we found out that during the disaster relief, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were the ones who gave the orders. The two of them arranged the resources and manpower in an orderly manner. Unfortunately, apart from them, we can't find another child like them in Great Tang. It's just a fluke." Zhang Zhong could not find anything else to say. "As for whether it's a fluke or not, we'll know by looking at the 6 Xiao submission. I'll continue to tell you. Apart from the capable subordinates of the 6 Xiao's master, there are also children under the age of 14. Most of them are elderly and unmarried women. Those who stayed behind are experienced old men, strong young men, and married women. They're staying behind to build the place. It's written in the letter of submission that they only brought a small amount of food with them. They've already set off and passed through Yi province. From there, they'll come to the capital to let me take a look at them before we make other arrangements. They don't have money, and they can't offer anything else in exchange. We'll have to arrange for their food, clothing, shelter, and transportation along the way. Also, they'll have to receive medical treatment. The people who stayed behind by Xiao Bao and Cuckoo sent a message saying that they'll take care of all the expenses. However, I don't think that's a good idea. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo have done enough. I'll pay for it. Now, I'll need you to make the arrangements." Li Longji explained the specific actions of the 6 Xiao's submission, and then swept his gaze over the crowd with a meaningful smile. The officials were all dumbfounded. Even Zhang Zhong knew that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were powerful, but they had never imagined that they were this powerful. In just 2 days they passed by, and all the people from the 6 Xiao, including the unmarried women and future children, had migrated to the Great Tang. This truly was submission. This was true submission. Apart from a few strong young men to work and women to accompany and do housework, the entire tribe had come? What had the two of them been doing there? Yes, their army of more than 10,000 people was strong enough, but could they just stroll around and cause all the surrounding countries and tribes to kneel down? Wasn't their strength boundless? Li Longji liked to see the surprised expressions of his officials. He felt very satisfied. Usually, When he protected Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, there would always be people who didn't show it on the surface, but were unconvinced. Now were they convinced? This was called ability. All of them were surprised, because they didn't think they could do it. Now Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had done it. Next time, if anyone was unconvinced, he would send them to a remote tribe that had not yet submitted. I don't need you to go over a few days to solve the problem and make them submit. I'll give you half a year to see if you can do it. If you can do it in half a year, I'll protect you when you come back. If you can't do it, you can continue to stay there. I don't need you to hang around in front of me. Who wants to take charge of this? Now give me a plan and budget. I'll listen to it, Li Longji said calmly. The officials were silent. Zhang Zhong hesitated for a moment and reached for the microphone. Before he could touch it, His Majesty's voice sounded. Yongcheng, take care of the Ministry of Works. I don't need you for other things. Zhang Zhong retracted his hand and sat there obediently. Speak. It's time to need you all. Who can tell me a plan and how much budget is needed? I'll pay. Li Longji continued to press. Your Majesty, there's not enough time. Why don't we discuss it in a few days? We can make arrangements after that. An official sitting in a lower position felt that His Majesty was forcing them, so he mustered up his courage to speak. Li Longji sneered and said, Not enough time? Do you dare to say this in front of Xiao Bao and Cuckoo? When I asked the two of them for a plan, I never received such an answer. They always immediately came up with a plan for me. Moreover, it was a complete set of plans. Leisure knows best. As long as Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are by my side, regardless of whether it's me Leisure, the Empress, or concubine Hui who ask, have they ever hesitated? Yongcheng, what about when you ask? Replying to your Majesty, this subject doesn't need to ask. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo only need to look at this subject's complexion and ask the servants about this subject's general itinerary and the people I've met today. They will know why this subject is distressed, so they will tell this subject how to deal with it. Furthermore, the two of them will complete the plan one by one. Zhang Zhong said proudly. Did you hear that? Li Longji asked. All the officials were silent and had nothing to say. His Majesty was comparing Xiao Bao and Cuckoo to them. What else could they say? Were the two of them even human? The two of them were doing things that defied the heavens and couldn't be measured with common sense. Li Longji leaned back and said, No one said anything. Recently, there have been people in the streets getting beaten up because these people say that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo ran to the border to raise troops and maintain self-respect. They're vaguely dividing the borders from the imperial court. Who instigated this? Raising troops and maintaining self-respect? Don't tell me they're not self-respect. What borders? My country is counting on the two of them to properly govern it. There's no need to divide. If anyone has the ability to make the two of them rebel, I'll give the dragon chair under my butt to that person. With a crash, all the officials stood up and returned to their seats. One by one, they knelt on the ground. At this time, if they didn't express their attitude, it would be very easy for them to be shot dead by the hidden snipers. Your Majesty, this subject believes that our colleagues in the imperial court won't do such a wrong thing. I hope. You shut up. They're bullying you, yet you're still pleading for leniency. Li Longji scolded Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong could only shut up. The others didn't think that His Majesty was angry at Zhang Zhong. Rather than calling it a reprimand, it was actually another kind of protection. Li Longji didn't let the crowd rise. He leisurely sipped his tea and said, I know that you didn't arrange for people to incite, but I also know that some people are playing the game of watching the fire burn across the river. The people who incited this matter are a little stupid. In the Great Tang, they spread the news of possible disagreements between Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. They even went to the tea house and the entrance of the zoo to spread the news. They were almost caught and fed to the animals by the zoo people. They beat them up and sent them to the capital office. I didn't get any information from you, so the people who were caught weren't even sentenced. Some people are hiding behind the scenes to watch the show, but why don't you think about it? Don't I have my own spy system? Are the spies of the Zhang family and Wang family just decorations? They didn't say anything, because they were waiting for me to deal with it. I didn't say anything, because I was waiting for you to say something. Did a small group of people think that I would listen to their words and transfer Xiao Bao and Cuckoo back? Did they think that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo would stop moving forward after knowing about this matter? I didn't even have time to greet Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo didn't care either. Their speed of advancement was still so fast. Their personal guards were so adapted to the environment and terrain. You have disappointed me too much. When Xiao Bao and Cuckoo come back, I will personally talk to them. When the time comes, the knife will fall on anyone's head. Don't say that I don't care about others' feelings. Innocent +5 ranks. Don't you think so, Yongqing? The newcomers didn't know what was going on. They only knew that His Majesty was angry. From His Majesty's words, it seemed that someone had instigated the relationship between Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, and someone in the court had acquiesced. But the result was obviously different from what those people had expected. His Majesty and Xiao Bao didn't care, and the instigator was beaten by the people. The person who was beaten was indeed very stupid. What a joke to spread this in the Great Tang. Everyone began to look at Zhang Zhong to see what he would say. Just as His Majesty said, His Majesty's intelligence department knew, so the spies of the Zhang family and Wang family couldn't not know. Chapter 1326. Zhang Zhong had no choice but to speak again. My family knows that someone is causing trouble, and we have already confirmed that it's the Japanese. It's Fengqiao Shoji, Watanabe Jichiro, Yamamoto, and Yumanji behind this. All of them are Japanese. My family has already informed Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, but they didn't reply. I feel that they don't care, but my family's think tank thinks that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are hinting for us to take the final blow. Therefore, my family didn't interrogate them in private. Instead, we left them be and let more Japanese show their faces. When we finally catch all of them in one fell swoop, no one in Japan will be able to resist. We have already kept an eye on Fengqiao and the others. After Zhang Zhong finished speaking, he paused for a moment before adding, as for why my colleagues didn't do anything, perhaps they thought the same as my family's think tank. Did you hear that? Zhang Zhong is putting in a good word for you. Li Longji glared at Zhang Zhong. I'm condemning you, yet you're still helping others explain. After glaring at him, Li Longji said again, if you think that Zhang Zhong is honest and a good person, when Xiao Bao and Cuckoo come back, perhaps they won't say anything, but Xiao Bei and the other 9. Haha. Your Majesty, you can't scare me. I do know about this matter, but I don't want to interfere. It's not that I have a problem with the Zhang family and the Wang family, but I feel that it's a good thing to have a different opinion occasionally. This means that our dynasty is still in turmoil, and might not be as stable as it seems. Small problems from time to time can remind us to continue working hard. Yuan Qianyao, who wasn't young anymore, spoke up. He wasn't putting on an act. He was really worried about Xiao Bei and the other 9. This was because he had a few children at home. Their usual benefits were provided by Darling Candy House. If Xiao Bei and the other 9 came back and heard about this matter, the children would impulsively stop the benefits. That would be a huge blow to the children at home. Yuan Qianyao already understood that a child's heart was very fragile and tenacious. They were tenacious in the face of disaster. But in times of peace, a child's heart couldn't withstand such an impact. Once the benefits from the precious candy house were stopped, the other ministers' benefits didn't stop. The children would lose their playmates. Xiao Bei and the others were originally 4 people. Why did Xiao Bao and Cuckoo find another 5 people for them? Other than the political purpose, it was to let them have someone to play with. Moreover, when they went out, they would always be in contact with the local children. She was worried that Xiao Bei and the others would not interact with their peers. Even adults were afraid of loneliness, let alone children. If Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were angry, he could communicate with them. All he had to do was talk things out. If Xiao Bei and the others were angry, how could he communicate with them? Children can be unreasonable sometimes. As soon as Yuan Qianyao, who was on tenterhooks, finished speaking, Wang Bei immediately followed suit. He still remembered that after hearing about his family's benefits, Xiao Bei and the others had specially provided a portion of benefits for his daughter-in-law, because she had a child. Nutrition and supporting measures were also included. If he didn't say anything, when Xiao Bei and the others came back and found out about this matter, They would report it in the Precious Candy House's storytelling newspaper. How could he live? Wang Bei could imagine Xiao Bei and the others first saying that he had attacked their father and then stopped the benefits. Then they said that their daughter-in-law was pregnant, so Xiao Bei and the others gave them benefits. Then, they would continue to say that when they weren't in the capital, he would stab them in the back. Heavens! Once this report was out, he would probably starve to death in the bustling capital. This wasn't a political issue, but a moral one. What would the people think? Therefore, Wang Bei felt that he had to make things clear. Otherwise, being condemned by the public could kill. Your Majesty, Brother Yongcheng, to be honest, at first, I didn't know about this matter. When I found out later, I was happy for a while. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. I've always wanted to find trouble with Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. To be precise, it's Brother Yongcheng. Why? It's because I'm jealous. If Brother Yongcheng falls, I can be happy for the whole day. But that's all I have. If Brother Yongcheng falls and injures his head and catches a fever, I really don't want that. If Brother Yongcheng falls to his death, I will be very sad. I won't even know what to do. I will regret it very much. I shouldn't have gone against Brother Yongcheng back then. I don't have a life and death feud with Brother Yongcheng. I just have a little thought. I even went to see the people who were arrested. I didn't care. It doesn't matter. If they say that they want to assassinate the people from the Zhang family and Wang family, I will be anxious. They just want to stir up trouble. Others don't understand the background of the Zhang family and Wang family. But how can I, who always want to bring trouble for them, not understand? So, I'm not watching from the sidelines, nor am I sitting on the mountain to watch the tigers fight. I'm just watching the show. I never thought that the Japanese could cause any trouble. I just want to see how Brother Yongcheng's family will deal with it, okay? When Wang Bei spoke, he didn't hold back at all. He even said his own thoughts and analyzed them. I believe Brother Wang's words. Zhang Zhong proved that he understood Wang Bei. If you said that he was a good person, he had a little dirty thoughts. If you said that he was a bad person, he really didn't want to kill anyone. When you walked with him, he hoped that you would fall, and then secretly laugh. But if you fell and there was a sharp stone pointed at your head, he would rather stretch out his injured arm to block it for you. He didn't want you to never get up again. He was such a person. There was one disadvantage to being friends with such a person. Usually, when you were unlucky, he would laugh at you. The advantage was that when you encountered a life and death situation, he was willing to risk his life to help you. He was a very contradictory but very real person. Li Longji naturally knew what was going on with his Minister of Revenue Wang Bei. He nodded in agreement. Wang Bei heaved a sigh of relief. With the understanding of Her Majesty and Zhang Zhong, it seemed that Xiao Bei and the others wouldn't target him after they returned. With Yuan Qianyao and Wang Bei taking the lead, the other ministers also gave their reasons. Their words made the new officials feel that they weren't afraid of Zhang Zhong, Her Majesty, or Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Instead, they were afraid of Xiao Bei and the 9 children. It was really too strange. Why weren't they afraid of the real power holders, but worried about a group of children? After thinking about it carefully, some of the newcomers understood. They could communicate with the adults. At most, they would just admit their mistakes. However, they couldn't communicate with the children. Children with huge power and authority were the most frightening. Li Longji watched coldly as his subjects expressed their opinions one by one. As he watched, he began to laugh. He pointed at them and scolded. A group of cowards. Look at you now. Do you still look like ministers? A group of cute Xiaobao babies scared you to this extent. It seems that I didn't do anything wrong. I gave Xiao Bei and the others a lot of power. They are still a deterrent to the great Tang's officials. Innocent plus 5 levels. That's right. No matter how smart the officials are, or how much evidence they destroy, as long as they are caught by Xiao Bei and the others, they won't have a good ending. Your Majesty is wise. The ministers all said in unison. That's right. I'm indeed very wise. Since the Yongqing family already has a plan, you can't leak it out. Otherwise, it won't be as dirty as the court. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo will think that you are betraying the country. That way, it won't be Xiao Bei and the others who will do it. If you really challenge the political stability of the Great Tang, and force Xiao Bao and Cuckoo to do it personally. You should understand that I can't protect you. Even if the crown prince made the same mistake and caused Xiao Bao and Cuckoo to be unable to tolerate it, I can only watch. Li Longji's expression was solemn as he spoke. He wasn't trying to scare them. He knew that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had a bottom line, and as a citizen of the Great Tang, if they didn't touch this bottom line, everything could be discussed. Xiao Bao and the others would leave a line. If they touched it, there was no turning back. The ministers didn't speak, but from their expressions, it was clear that they were also serious. They weren't afraid of Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, but as citizens of the Great Tang, they had their own code of conduct and morals. Continue to the next topic. Li Longji felt that this matter had basically been resolved. As for who would be responsible for welcoming the sixth Zhao, there was no need for the court to worry about it. He had deliberately asked earlier to let the ministers know the gap between them and Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, so that they wouldn't always be unconvinced. For Li Longji, it was fine if they were unconvinced, but they had to show their true ability. Just saying that they were unconvinced was not enough. Who didn't know how to retreat in the face of a little difficulty and advance in the face of benefits? He didn't need those kinds of people who could follow him around and flatter him when they had nothing to do. When it came to crucial moments, he needed people like Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. If he really wanted people who could make him feel comfortable, Xiao Bei and the others were more suitable. Who would dare to steal food from him when flattering him? Xiao Bei and the others could fight over a piece of meat, and in the end, no matter who ate it, everyone would be happy. He had the ability to deal with natural disasters as soon as possible, and when his life was at stake, he could take advantage of the disaster to rebuild. No setback was a problem, and he would become stronger when facing a strong opponent. But in all of the Great Tang, only Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had this ability. It was especially relaxing when he was with them, as if none of the problems were problems. The two of them even had time to joke around, and Xiao Bao could even find time to cook. When would the Great Tang have more people like Xiao Bao and Cuckoo? They didn't need to be half as good, just half as good. Your Majesty, this subject intends to build dams on the rivers around the capital this year to generate electricity. The Ministry of Works has recently developed a generator that can be used in rivers with low flow. If electricity can be used, many specialized products will appear accordingly. For example, there's a process called electroplating. There's also the decomposition of oxygen and hydrogen. The airships that the Ministry of Works built some time ago are much faster than hot air balloons, and they're filled with hydrogen. Oxygen can be used for welding, and there's also the medical aspect. The current production capacity is very low, and welding doesn't use oxygen, so the results are much worse. When it came to serious matters, Zhang Zhong spoke first. Oh, I've used oxygen before. The weather wasn't good a few days ago, and it was stuffy. I caught a cold, and my stomach wasn't feeling well either. In the end, I couldn't breathe after eating, so someone gave me an oxygen bottle. It was very comfortable, and I wanted to use it continuously, but the doctor said that I can't. If I use it for too long, my body won't be able to adapt to the lack of oxygen. Li Longji proved that he had agreed. Your Majesty, this subject wishes to build a city in the extreme north to station our Great Tang's people. It can withstand the cold and fend off external enemies. Someone found an opportunity to interrupt. Li Longji frowned and looked over. No, what city? In the future, I won't build outer cities, only houses. Chapter 1327. The topics discussed in the imperial court were passed one after another. There were no major issues. The only thing that needed to be resolved was that some of the people who had rented the land did not want to buy it. The officials had no good ideas. The people had already paid the taxes, and they did not want to sell the grain, so they could not punish them. Moreover, this year's autumn harvest had been estimated in advance, and the output would be very high. Some of the people who did not want to sell the grain would leave it at home first. Would they sell it in the end if the grain price did not go up? If they did not sell, they would keep it. It could be considered a cost. If it did not flow, it would depreciate. There was also a small problem. Who would be in charge of accepting the immigrants from the 6th Zhao? It was not suitable for important people to leave the capital, but it seemed not important for unimportant people to go out. In the end, it was decided that the Assistant Minister of Revenue, Pei Yaoqing, would go. He was a good person, and Li Longji believed that he could do the job well. He could not be too warm to the people of the Six Zhao, and make the people of the Tang Empire feel inferior to outsiders. But he could not be indifferent to the people of the Six Zhao. They had left their homeland to come to the capital of the Tang Empire, and were full of yearning for the life they had come for. Calling them over, and then not treating them well, would that not be cheating? If the people did not listen to you, you would bury the seeds of unrest wherever you put them. Pei Yaoqing was capable and upright. His rank was not low, and he happened to belong to the Ministry of Revenue. Along the way, he could also see the situation of the local people. Li Longji specially allocated 2 million strings of coins from the national treasury for him to act on his convenience if he encountered any problems along the way. If the road was not good or the bridge was damaged, he could withdraw the money from the local bank and hire someone to fix it. After the matter was decided, Pei Yaoqing did not stay to watch the movie. He hurriedly left the Hanyuan Palace and went home to prepare for departure that night. At this time, the morning court was over. Li Longji looked to the side and saw a clock with the hands pointing to the 10:40 position. Touching his stomach, Li Longji said, "Let's eat breakfast." The buns were sent. They were not cold and had been kept warm, but some had collapsed after a long time. The officials were not in the mood to care about this, and began to eat in the Hanyuan Palace. The entire morning court was filled with the smell of crab meat buns. In addition to the buns, there was also cucumber and egg soup, as well as 2 small pickles. Those who liked to dip it in vinegar would dip it in vinegar, and those who liked it would dip it in soy sauce. After this breakfast, there was probably no need to eat lunch. In the evening, they could get off work early and watch a movie with His Majesty. This was the first official movie in the Great Tang, and the officials were going to watch it. It was a political mission. Li Longji ate 2 steamed buns and drank a mouthful of soup. When he saw Gao Lisher standing by the side serving him, he pointed at the steamed buns in front of him with his chopsticks. Gao Lisher shook his head. The palace maids and eunuchs hadn't eaten yet, so it was better for him to wait for a while and eat together. Has the fat clam from Jili State also come down? In a few days, the hairy crabs in Lake Tai can also be eaten. Are the lotus flowers in Hangzhou's West Lake blooming with green leaves or budding? Li Longji seemed to be asking Gao Lisher, but at the same time, he seemed to be muttering to himself. However, he did not turn off the microphone, so the ministers below could hear him clearly. They lowered their heads and continued eating, pretending that they did not hear him. Gao Lisher helped Li Longji add another spoonful of soup and said, "Your Majesty, many of the animals that were sent to the zoo in the capital this year have adapted and are very lively. 2 pandas have given birth. Why don't we go and have a look tomorrow? It's said that you can always see mirages in Penglai near Dengzhou in Henan province. It's a good place to fish." Li Longji ignored the zoo. "Your Majesty is right. Many species of sea fish can be seen there. A few days ago, a group of sea fish were found in the artificial salt lake beside the capital to test. Unfortunately, they all died. It was too salty, and the fish could not stand it. However, there are no reefs on the artificial beach there. The weather is just right now. Why don't we go and have a look tomorrow?" Gao Lisher went along with Li Longji's words and talked about the artificial saltwater lake. It was a very big project. If the capital suddenly ran out of salt, they could take out the water and boil it. The capital would immediately stabilize and have enough food to eat. Li Longji nodded. "Speaking of salt, it's more convenient to dry it. The output of salt at the estuary of the Yangtze River is relatively low. The river water is not so salty. The Yangtze River swordfish have to be desalinated when they swim upstream from the sea. I still remember that Xiao Bei and the others encountered danger on their way to Xuanyang. Later on, Xiao Bao came up with an idea to specialize in processing all kinds of things. Moreover, there's a section of the railway there. I really want to see how prosperous it is. The fish in Prunglai Lake is also delicious. You can even climb Mount Lu behind it. Your Majesty, speaking of scenery, The hot springs in Gyeonggi province are also very good. When the weather is hot, soak in the hot water and relax. It's good for the body. Gao Lishur mentioned another fun place. Li Longji sighed and said, Okay, I won't be going on a trip. If only Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were here. They could always find a good excuse for me to go on a trip to various places. After Li Longji said that he would eat, his subordinates also breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that he didn't go out, otherwise he would delay things. Moreover, the most important thing was who would accompany him. If Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were here, they could really take His Majesty to other places to play. After all, they didn't have a proper place to be officials. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who were missed by Li Longji who wanted to go on a trip, had already contacted the locals. With the help of the translators, everyone could communicate. There were not many locals living in the periphery, only about 130 people. They were dark and thin, and all of them looked at the approaching Tang people with vigilant eyes. They already knew that the Tang people had weapons that didn't look as powerful as spears, which could kill people from a long distance. At the same time, they also knew that the Tang people had good things. Someone in charge, come here. Zhang Xiaobao saw that the other party didn't have a weapon and shouted. The translators also shouted. A person walked out from the crowd. His hair and beard were very long, and they were stuck together in strands. No one knew how long it had been since he last washed. It had just rained, so it was convenient to stand in the rain and wash. How lazy, Zhang Xiaobao commented. Then he said to the other party, My name is Zhang Xiaobao. I'm a good person. What's wrong with your eyes? I haven't translated yet. I can understand you. My name is Duo Lake Duo. Alright, Duo is enough. How can you speak our language? Zhang Xiaobao knew why the other party had such an expression when he said that he was a good person. Was he really that bad? Even people thousands of li away had heard of him? His reputation was spread far and wide. Wang Wan didn't say anything. She pursed her lips and smiled. Xiao Bei and the others also smiled like little foxes who had secretly eaten chicken. They were smiling like thieves. Duo had been sizing up the group of people in front of him. When he found that none of them looked fierce, and there was no ridicule in their eyes, he relaxed a little and replied, In the past, I saved your people. No, I was saved by your people. In a mountain very far away, I was bitten by a snake and fell ill. I met a Tang merchant passing by and was saved. I followed the group for a period of time, and learned your language. When I left, they gave me 2 beautiful jars. One of them accidentally broke. In order to prove what he said, Duo asked someone to bring the jars over. While waiting, Zhang Xiaobao sized up the living environment of the other party. They were really poor. Shacks made of wood and branches, houses without bricks, basins and bowls made of wood, and children were naked. Whether it was men or women, they only had a simple woven cloth, an animal skin around their waists. There were even knives made of stone, and sharp pieces of stone, used to tie the front end of wooden spears. Only Duo in front of him was tied with a rope, and carried a metal knife in front of him. Its shape was very strange. It was longer than a kitchen knife, narrower than a kitchen knife, straighter than a watermelon knife, and sharper than a watermelon knife. It probably had many functions. It could cut and stab. However, judging from the color, the quality of the knife was not very good. It was unlike the current Tang dynasty, where a random family had several knives and metal pots. It was not like in the past where 2 or 3 families used one knife. This showed that the living standards of the Tang dynasty people had improved. Zhang Xiaobao thought and felt proud. He felt that he had contributed a lot. After sizing up the other party, and being sized up by the other party, the people who went to get the things came back with 2 jars each. It was very precious, but the Tang people threw it away. He translated it to his clansmen, and they all cheered as they looked at Zhang Xiaobao. Their faces filled with enthusiasm. They are a group of honest people. They are welcome to give benefits. Zhang Xiaobao thought and waved his hand. Someone immediately brought the things over. Zhang Xiaobao took a bowl with golden flowers. After hesitating, he handed it to Duo and said, I will lend you this, but I need your help. Chapter 1328. As the leader of this small group, Duo had only seen a beautiful bowl once. When the tribes held a grand Buddhist meeting, he participated. The small golden bowl was displayed. At that time, it shone brightly under the sunlight. The whole bowl was golden, and the pattern on it made people not dare to look directly at it. The bowl in his hand at this time was different from the one he saw at that time. It was not completely made of gold, but a kind of porcelain of the Tang dynasty. There were red, yellow, and green flowers on it, and a special white background. It felt cool in his hand. When he touched it, the white part was delicate and smooth, and the part with the pattern was prominent. No matter how he looked at it, it did not look like something used to eat. It was placed in the most important place in the house for others to see. Duo looked at the bowl in his hand, and then looked at the other bowls and plates that were not sent over. They were the same kind as the one in his hand, so he could not help but swallow his saliva. He asked Zhang Xiaobao with uncertainty, Are you really giving it to us? Yes, it's just food. It's easy to break after a long journey. You can keep it. We still have some, and the rest will be solid iron bowls. Zhang Xiaobao was really hesitant. It was not that he was reluctant to give it to Duo. The bowls used at home were very beautiful. He was worried that if he gave it to Duo would be remembered by others. If that was the case, giving something to others would harm them. Duo did not think about this for a while. He carefully put the bowl in his hand in the arms of the person next to him, picked up a plate, and stroked the pattern with his hand. Xiaobei said, This is the peony fighting beauty pattern. They are red peony, yellow peony, and white peony. In the Tang dynasty, it is worth more than 30 strings of coins. You can buy a lot of salt. If you eat as much as you want, it will be enough for you to eat for 20 years. Xiaobei now learned to use salt to show the value of things. Who asked the local people to lack salt, saying that money was not intuitive enough. Duo's hand trembled, and he almost threw the plate to the ground. He did not doubt the words of the little girl next to him. The plate was really beautiful. Behind him, a young man came over and said a few words to Duo. Duo listened, took a deep breath, put the plate back, and said to Zhang Xiaobao, We only need 2 bowls. Zhang Xiaobao heard some of the content. That person asked Duo what was going on, and Duo told him that it was a gift from the great Tang, and that it could be used to eat. That person was very happy, and said that they had good things. Even the king of the tribe would feel that they had a high status. Duo thought about what Zhang Xiaobao was worried about, and decided not to take so many things. He only kept 2 bowls. If people didn't care about him, and forced him to take them, he would keep them as treasures. If people threatened him, he would give them to them. He then turned his head and spoke to the people on his side. His meaning was that the item was too expensive, and they were unable to pay for it. They could only leave behind 2 bowls and help the great Tang. His people couldn't understand the language of the great Tang, so they all believed it to be true. No one objected to the offer of help. In their eyes, the 2 bowls were very precious. Even if they added up all the things in the tribe, they still wouldn't be able to exchange for them. Do you see? They live on the outskirts of the large tribes, and are looked down upon by the tribes. But they don't dare to leave behind everything we give them. They are worried that the leaders of the tribes will find out and steal it. If you don't have strength, don't even think about having it, even if it clearly belongs to you. Zhang Xiaobao said to his brothers and sisters as he handed over another bowl. The 9 little ones nodded. They had seen too many things along the way. Things that they couldn't understand just by reading books, and things that they didn't personally experience in the stories told by their brothers and sisters. They knew that they were respected and loved by the great Tang because of their brothers and sisters. They gave the great Tang people a good life and a stable environment to live in. When they arrived at the 6th Xiao, it was because of their brothers and sisters' reputation. Now it was because of the strength of their own large army. It had nothing to do with the good bowls and plates they had. If they didn't have the company of more than 10,000 elites, the better the things they had, the more dangerous it would be. So that's why my brothers and sisters have always valued technology to strengthen the army, right? Peace without being able to contend against the enemy's strength comes from the enemy's charity. The peace of the strong to the weak is compassion and tolerance. We don't want to be the former. We don't need the charity of others. Xiao Bei waved his little fist and said seriously. The other 8 little ones nodded. Duoduo was also listening. A trace of embarrassment appeared on his face, but he still said, "Yes, we don't dare to steal your things. We will agree to any conditions you raise as long as they don't harm our lives. The weak can't negotiate with the strong. It's really not easy for you children to follow us. It's very tiring, but we've learned a lot. What we see with our own eyes is more realistic than what is recorded in books. It's not just the interactions between people, but also the flowers, trees, mountains, rivers, and all kinds of animals we see on the road. Not all children have this opportunity. Ji Xiang Rui and the others can't follow us. They're too young, so we can adapt. So we were brought along by my brothers and sisters. Oh, Ji Xiang Rui is our younger brother and sister. They're very cute," Xiao Bei said to Duoduo while giving his brothers and sisters a sweet smile. When Xiao Yuan and the others heard Xiao Bei's words, they felt that the hardships along the way were nothing. Just as Xiao Bei had said, not all children had such an opportunity. Moreover, other children might have had it worse in the past. They had to go up the mountain to collect firewood and cut grass to feed the cattle and sheep. If they were the village children who worked for the master, not to mention studying, after returning from releasing the cattle to eat something, they would find some hay and sleep with the cattle outside the house. Duoduo looked at the 9 children enviously. He then looked back at the naked children on his side and shook his head. The difference was too big. "Tell us, what do you need us to do? Actually, if you don't give us anything, we won't dare to resist," Duoduo sighed and said to Zhang Xiaobao. At this time Wang Wan said, "You have to follow us wherever we go. Also, you have to be responsible for hunting and picking vegetables. We can't use the things we carry too much." As Wang Wan spoke, she finally understood why other expeditions had to bring a large number of non-combatants, such as craftsmen and the like. Then they had to defeat the enemy and be captured. The expeditionary army had no supplies behind them, and they probably wouldn't be able to keep up. When they went deep into the local area, they could only rely on the things carried by airships. It would be great if they had a group of long-range heavy transport aircraft. Countries without such tools couldn't fight long-range wars. They could take advantage of the good weather to hold on for food. But what about ammunition? It was no wonder that when aircraft carriers and heavy transport aircraft came out, the surrounding small countries were nervous. Wang Wan thought for a moment. When she was done, Duoduo didn't respond. He didn't look at her and looked at Xiaobao. Thus, Wang Wan snorted in dissatisfaction. Zhang Xiaobao coughed and said to Duoduo, "This beautiful and charming woman is my wife. As for me, I can't control this team. I can only control the people in the team who don't fight. As for her, everyone with guns listens to her. Do you know?" Duoduo opened his mouth blankly and looked at the beautiful woman in front of him again. So this woman was the one who killed people. Duoduo looked at Zhang Xiaobao again. "Why are you staring at me like that? She's the one who calls the shots. Don't you understand?" Zhang Xiaobao said with a glare. "You can't beat her?" Duoduo asked. Normally I can beat her, but I can't. She's my wife. Do you understand my wife? She's the woman who will live with me for a lifetime. Why would I beat her? After the fight, I can't live anymore. Even if she can't beat me, she won't give in. I know her better than you. But when it comes to fighting, I'm really not her match when leading the same people and weapons. In other words, she's better at leading soldiers than me. The more soldiers she leads, the stronger she is. As for me, the more money she gives me, the stronger I am. I can't explain it clearly to you. In any case, you remember that the relationship between me and her is different from the relationship between you and your woman. Zhang Xiaobao explained over and over again. After all, he needed the other party's help, so he had to make things clear. Duoduo actually didn't understand why a man would give the military power to a woman. If he could beat her, he would beat her until she became obedient. If she didn't, he would continue to beat her. He kindly advised Zhang Xiaobao. "You can." Wang Wan stepped forward with her left foot, exerted force on her waist, and kicked Duoduo with her right foot. Duoduo flew up and heard the woman's voice. "You talk too much nonsense." Then there was the sound of walla from his side, Don't move. After landing on the ground, Duo felt that his body was about to fall apart. Ignoring the pain in his chest, he shouted to his people, "Listen to them, don't move. Get up, get your people ready and follow us." Wang said with a cold face. "Oh." Duo responded, turned over, and rubbed his chest. He began to prepare the 120 people in his small tribe for migration. Zhang Xiaobao raised his arm, and the people in the team put away their guns. He said to his younger siblings, "See? People always know how to cherish the time when they are not injured after they are hurt. So brother, you don't dare to hit sister. You're afraid of getting hurt, right?" Little Bei looked up and asked. Zhang Xiaobao patted his sister's head. "When you're older, you'll know that when husband and wife fight, the physical harm will never be as great as the distance between the hearts of the people. Most importantly, if I don't kill your sister, but she risks her life, I'll get hurt easily. A life and death battle only takes a moment. In theory, the speed of a passive reaction can't compare to the speed of an active attack, especially when the distance is very close." Xiao Yuan, who was beside Little Bei, said to her brother as if she had found a confidant, "I'm always bullied by Little Bei. My heart hurts. Then I won't bully you in the future. I'll bully others," Little Bei said with a pout. "Then I'll make the people you bully hurt all over their body," Xiao Yuan said threateningly. "Look at how you teach your younger siblings." Wang rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao and walked over to instruct the people of Duoduo's tribe to pack their military backpacks. There were many things they needed to carry. Zhang Xiaobao turned his head to look at his younger siblings and said, "My heart hurts now too. Brother, you and sister are so fun." Little Bei hugged her brother's waist and twisted her body to act like a spoiled child. Zhang Xiaobao picked up his sister and held her on his right elbow. He followed Wang and walked over. "She's already 3 meters tall. She's getting heavier and heavier. I can't carry her. Let's go and take a look." Duo rubbed his chest with one hand and kept pointing with the other, telling his people to move faster. Wang told him not to let the people of the tribe carry wooden weapons and stone tools. Wooden bowls and basins were also thrown here. Duo was very obedient this time. He thought that he couldn't beat the woman in front of him. When he was being beaten just now, he couldn't make any defensive movements at all. When he dodged, his chest first felt stuffy, and then he flew. Perhaps this was why the man called Zhang Xiaobao was afraid. But when he saw Zhang Xiaobao coming over, he overthrew the guess in his heart. He saw how Zhang Xiaobao was holding his sister. His right arm was bent and raised horizontally, not sticking to his body. That little girl was sitting on Zhang Xiaobao's arm, one hand hugging Zhang Xiaobao's neck. Her 2 legs were swinging in the air. How strong was her arm? Especially Zhang Xiaobao, who looked relaxed and didn't care at all. Duo pondered. If it was Zhang Xiaobao who kicked him just now, would he fly higher and farther? "Come, let me see. Are your bones broken?" Zhang Xiaobao walked to Duo and stretched out his left hand to press on the place where Duo was kicked. He nodded. "It's okay. You kicked very well. At the end, you used force, not vibration force. Otherwise, you would have died. It seems that my wife knows how to control her strength." Duo nodded. "I finally know that women are not to be trifled with." Chapter 1329. Duo's small tribe had a total of 126 people, including all the adults, the elderly, and the children. They packed up their things and threw away everything that should be thrown away. Otherwise, each person wouldn't be able to carry a hill-sized backpack. Although there were few people, and they lived a poor life, they had a lot of daily necessities. The group of people was ready. The people of the tribe took one last look at the place where they used to live and followed Zhang Xiaobao and Wang's team to the local central tribe without any reluctance. Xiao Bei and the other 9 people called Su Yilong and also got busy. There were 2 children in the tribe that they couldn't take care of, so they were carried by the adults. The other small, dark, and thin children were their responsibility. They called the interpreters to give gifts to the children. There were a total of 15 children, 6 girls and 9 boys. After asking, they found out that the oldest was 8 years old, and the youngest was 3 years old. As for the 9-year-old, They were considered adults and needed help to do a lot of things. The gifts were very simple. They were candy placed inside a toy, a bamboo toy. When the candy was placed inside, it would be poured out when it was eaten. When it wasn't eaten, it would be played with. It was a toy that Xiao Bei and the others didn't play with at all, but it was very attractive to the local children. Xiao He grabbed them one by one and made a few strange sounds from his mouth from time to time. He played very happily. There were also people who measured everyone in the tribe. When they were resting, there would be people who specially made clothes and shoes for them, just like what Xiao Bei and the others wore. The team carried a lot of cooked cowhide. No matter how hot it was, everyone had to wear high leather boots. Otherwise, they would hurt their feet. The other people in the tribe were carrying various tools that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan gave them. The new tools were much better than the old ones, so they were very happy. Zhang Xiaobao's team reduced the burden of transportation. Since they were given out, they naturally wouldn't continue to help carry. Duo carried things on his back and a set of knives in front of him. There were a total of 9 knives inserted into a wooden box and locked with a chain. From time to time, Duo would touch the handles of the knives. Only then did he feel relieved that the things were not lost, and he didn't feel the pain in his chest from being kicked. These knives are very valuable, right? Duo once again touched the handles of the knives one by one and asked Zhang Xiaobao. It's all right. We all brought good steel knives with us when we came out. They're much better than the scrap metal you're using. Zhang Xiaobao said that Duo had already been solemnly handed over to another strong man in the tribe. Duo nodded and walked a few steps before asking, "Why didn't you bring more inferior items? Your inferior items are also very valuable here. The difference between a beautiful bowl and an ugly bowl won't be much worse. We can flip through so many things, but you must have flipped through many times. Since I'm going out, I naturally have to bring good things," Zhang Xiaobao explained, and then looked at Toto Duo. For some reason, he felt that Toto Duo was just trying to find something to talk about, as if he wanted to achieve some sort of goal. Duo nodded and didn't say anything this time. Until noon, when they needed to stop and rest, they chose a relatively flat place for Zhang Xiaobao's family to eat. The other places were randomly chosen. Of course, the flattest place was reserved for the people who made the clothes and shoes. Today's lunch was still stewed. A large pot was placed on the rack with a fire under it. They threw in all the jerky that the tribe had saved with great difficulty to stew. This was not enough, so they also threw in some of the things they had hunted on the road, and some wild vegetables. When they were cooked, they poured the noodles into it to make soup. Each person had a bowl to eat. Such a simple meal was sumptuous for the people of the tribe. They carefully held the iron bowl with one hand and reached in with the other hand to grab the food. However, they felt that it was too hot, so they gave each person a spoon, which was very strenuous to use. The food of the 9 children was better than the others. There was a small plate of kimchi. Seeing that the children of the tribe were staring at it and wanted to grab it with their hands, Xiao Bei had no choice but to put some into their bowls. She didn't want to eat the food that Xiao He had grabbed. There was a limit to how approachable she could be. The children of the tribe didn't see that she didn't want them to grab the food, and happily ate a mouthful of the kimchi. It was sour and sweet, and their faces showed a happy expression. They were very satisfied. Xiao Bei looked and carefully tasted the food in her bowl. After swallowing it, she said, "It's really delicious. I also think it's a blessing. Do we still need to talk about our cook skills? Of course it's delicious. Do you think you have a hard life?" Xiao Yuan said and lowered his head to eat, pretending that he didn't see Xiao Bei's glare. A normal adult would be full after eating a big bowl. But the people of Duo finished a bowl and looked at the pot. They found that there was still some left, so they made do and ate half a bowl each. After eating, they were panting, not knowing whether it was because they were too full or because it was too hot. The team continued on their journey, but the clothes and boots were still not ready. Duo touched the hilt of the knife in front of her chest again. Suddenly, she turned her head and asked Zhang Xiaobao, "Do you know how to grow food? Do you know how to raise cattle and sheep?" Zhang Xiaobao looked over and nodded. "It's okay. My family has zhuangzi, which is specially used to grow food and raise livestock. Moreover, the yield is very high. If you want to raise livestock, I think chickens are good. Catch a wild chicken, cut off its wings, tie a rope between its legs, and encircle an area with a fence. You can eat eggs and chicken. If you can pay enough, I can even get people to send you good breeding chickens and pigs. I'll tell you how to take care of them. What's the price? Duo asked anxiously. Zhang Xiaobao paused for a moment, smacked his lips and shook his head. Let's not talk about the price first. You don't have anything. Other than more than 120 people, you can't take out anything else. I'll tell you how to raise wild chickens and pigs first. I'll find a few people to introduce them to you. Alright. Duo felt very helpless. He really couldn't take out enough things to exchange with the other party. After hesitating for a while, he took a deep breath and mustered up his courage. He said to Zhang Xiaobao, I've thought about it. If I go back to the big tribe, they will take away my knife. They will take away the clothes and shoes you made for us. I can't resist at all. They will kill all of us. I intend to stay away from them, go to a place where they can't find me, and live a peaceful life with my people. But we don't know how to grow food, and we don't know how to raise things. We used to trade with them every few days with game and fish that we caught. If you can teach us, I won't have to worry about not having anything to trade. If you leave us some of your good tools, I'm willing to do anything for you. This time, Zhang Xiaobao understood that Duo was also ambitious. He also wanted to resist exploitation and oppression. It was just that he didn't have the ability in the past. Now he felt that if he found a temporary backer and learned some skills, he would not be controlled by the big tribes. Zhang Xiaobao didn't answer immediately. He was thinking about how to solve the current problem of Duo's tribe while he was on the road. Until night fell, when they would arrive at the area where the big tribes lived. Zhang Xiaobao still couldn't figure out a solution. He seemed to be very confused. During dinner, he personally roasted the meat of a deer that he had hunted on the road for his younger siblings. He also cooked roasted deer belly and steamed rice for the children in the tribe to eat together. Together with the 4 injured members, he and Wang continued to eat together with the rest of the team. Duo was very puzzled. He pointed to the 2 large portions of food and rice and said, You can eat. We can't eat. Zhang Xiaobao seriously replied. You are the leaders. Duo emphasized. Yes, but we are not the wounded and the children. Zhang Xiaobao replied again. Duo shook his head. Obviously, he didn't understand why the leaders of a group couldn't eat well. Zhang Xiaobao didn't expect Duo to understand. After dinner, he went into the tent with Wang and began to discuss the matter mentioned by Duo during the day. I really don't know how to arrange it. Zhang Xiaobao sighed. You have the ability to help them, but you feel that you can't get enough in return, because they are not the people of the Tang Empire. You are hesitating whether to integrate them into the Tang Empire. You consider that they are not among the 56 tribes, so you naturally exclude them, right? Wang analyzed Zhang Xiaobao's thoughts and said. Zhang Xiaobao admitted. Indeed, I always treat them as outsiders. And they are too backward and don't understand the Tang Empire. If I want to integrate them into the Tang Empire, I have to put in a lot of effort. Where to arrange them is the problem. Put them at the border, their lives will improve, and at the same time, they are still them, not the people of the Tang Empire. If they are separated, they will not be able to adapt. They are almost a family, and it is very immoral of you to separate them. Then how can you arrange the 6 Zhao, the original Tubo, and the people at the border who were tricked into becoming hostages, the Turks, the Silla, and the other remote areas? Wang asked suggestively. Because they are. Alright, they are one of the 56 races. It could be 57, or 58, or 85. I just didn't get it right for a while. Then if I help them, I will help myself. Together with the people of the large tribes, I will take away the authority of the leader and return them to the Tang Empire. Zhang Xiaobao thought it through, and the previous problem was no longer a problem. Wang smiled and said, We cannot kill the leader, but we can't let him have trusted subordinates. According to the plan, we will first take them away and let them be our logistics personnel. Slowly get to know them, And as time goes by, their leader's authority will gradually weaken in the hearts of the people of the tribe. If they play tricks, we will use this as an excuse to kill them. If they are honest, we will let them live. I hate it the most when I accept a group with its original management. It is the same for the military, the government, and the business. I hate it too. Let's sleep. Tomorrow we will not tell Duo all the plans. Just tell him that we will help him. When we arrive at the place, we will trick everyone to follow us. Zhang Xiaobao yawned and pulled the blanket over himself and Wang Wan. He listened to the sounds of the little ones playing as they couldn't sleep, and fell asleep. The next morning, the people of Duoduo's tribe changed into new clothes and boots. After breakfast, Zhang Xiaobao pulled Duo aside and whispered to him. Duoduo's face finally showed a look of relief and excitement. Chapter 1330. Duo, who had been promised by Zhang Xiaobao, jumped up and down as he walked. His head kept looking back and forth. Several times, he wanted to tell his tribesmen the good news, but he restrained himself. He was afraid that if he told the news, when his tribesmen met the leader of the big tribe, someone would accidentally spill the news. If the leader knew, he would be angry and kill all 126 of his tribesmen. Even though he had come with the Tang team, who could guarantee that the tribe leader would kill him in a fit of anger? Even if the Tang people helped him take revenge, he would still be dead. Duo was happy, so he asked the strong men in the tribe to work hard to hunt. They all pulled their bows and arrows and worked very hard. It was a pity that there were no metal arrowheads. Zhang Xiaobao's tribesmen had metal arrowheads, but they were not suitable for the shafts of bows and arrows. They carried crossbows, which were shorter than bows and arrows, but they saved strength, had a long range, and had high accuracy. There were two ways to load the crossbows. One was to kick the crossbows directly, the other was to shake the handle beside it. Crossbows were more convenient for assassination than guns. They were less noisy. And the most important thing was that the arrows could be retrieved. Duo looked at them with envy. At the same time, he was surprised by their ability to adapt to the terrain. Every time he saw someone with a crossbow, he would take a second look. However, he did not ask for it. He knew that the crossbow and the set of arrows were dozens, or even hundreds of times more valuable than the set of knives he just got. Fortunately, Zhang Xiaobao gave him another set of knives. They were not for cooking, but for carpentry. The bows and arrows they used were made from tree branches. With a good knife, it would be easier to cut them, and it would be more accurate. The tail feathers used to balance the arrows would also be easier to find. The tribesmen could make bows and arrows as they walked. The workmanship was rough, but the effect was good when they hit animals. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also understood this, so they always asked the Tang army to be very careful. With traps and long-range weapons, they could teach the enemy a lesson. Duo didn't know that the bows and arrows used by his tribe would make Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan nervous. He always felt that the Tang people's weapons called guns were more powerful. He wasn't wrong in his thinking. It was indeed powerful. However, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had requested for 0 casualties, and they really did it. They didn't die directly from the other party's offensive weapons during the course of the battle. As a result, the pressure on the logistics team increased, and they had to exchange money for lives. Duo didn't know how valuable the lives of the Tang people were. He was looking forward to seeing how the thing called a gun attacked. Seeing that Zhang Xiaobao didn't use it, he couldn't help but ask, "Gun, let's have a shot?" Zhang Xiaobao hesitated for a moment and nodded. "It's just one shot. It's not easy to reload the bullets. It's like a bow. An arrow can be retracted after it's shot, but a bullet can't be used immediately after it's shot. If the shape changes, it has to be reloaded. It's very troublesome." "You don't have enough bullets?" Duo asked. "It's enough to kill you 10,000 times over," Zhang Xiaobao threatened. Duo waved his hand. "That's not what I meant. Let me have a look." Zhang Xiaobao stretched out his hand, and someone handed over a sniper rifle. After receiving it, Zhang Xiaobao took it apart and reassembled it. His hand gently stroked the body of the gun, and his face was also attached to the gun, feeling the trace of coolness. Duo, who was watching from the side, felt that it was very strange. It turned out that the gun could be taken apart. But why did it feel that Zhang Xiaobao wasn't holding a weapon to kill people, but a beautiful woman? Looking at Zhang Xiaobao's woman, Wang Wan, her eyes were so gentle when she looked at the gun. What's going on with these two people? When we pick up a weapon, we are one with the weapon. It's like you have a good bow. The chef's knife and the weaving girl's needle are all like this. Let's go to the front. Zhang Xiaobao said, and called Duo to rush forward. Behind them, there was the sound of messy footsteps. The 9 little guys and Su Yilong also followed, wanting to see the fun. There were many wild beasts in places that had not been extensively destroyed by humans. Soon the group found a deer. It was an adult male deer with 10 forked antlers on its head. It was leisurely eating grass about 300 meters away from the group. In fact, there were people on the other side of the deer, but it didn't meet them. They were scouts, and they had to advance 20 miles. Zhang Xiaobao chose to shoot while standing, and he didn't have any support. Just as he was about to aim, someone beside him pulled his clothes. "Brother, let me do it, okay?" It was Xiaonan who spoke. "Okay." Zhang Xiaobao handed the gun over. Xiaonan stretched out her hands and caught it. Looking at the deer, she took off the scope and found a place to lie on the ground. She patted her right shoulder with her left hand and put her right hand on the trigger. She aimed with her eyes and began to adjust her breathing, waiting and waiting. Duo didn't understand what a little girl was waiting for. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden gunshot sounded, startling him. The deer had fallen to the ground, and only its 4 limbs were still moving slightly. Rub it, rub it. Xiaobei shouted and ran to Xiaonan's side, squatting down and rubbing Xiaonan's shoulders. Xiaonan was very shy and stood up. "It's okay. I'll be fine after a while. It doesn't hurt." After saying that, she still shook her arm. It was obvious that the recoil just now made her feel uncomfortable. Usually, she didn't use a sniper rifle to practice. Her pistol was also the most accurate among the 9 of them. Her firing speed was also fast, and she could hit anything within 35 meters. Duo looked at the fallen deer, and then looked at the girl, who had just used the gun in disbelief. He ran toward the deer. When Zhang Xiaobao and others came near, he was still observing. There were no other wounds on the deer's body. Only its eyes were messy. When he lifted the deer's head, the other eye was also the same. Needless to say, it must have gone in from one eye and come out from the other. Duo looked back at the place where he was standing before, and looked at Xiaonan again. He asked in surprise, "You can hit the eyes from so far away?" I didn't aim at the eyes. I aimed at the head. It was so far away, and I didn't use the scope. I couldn't see the deer's eyes." Xiaonan was still shy and didn't show any pride. She knew that her brother and sister were better than her. She needed to continue practicing. "Why didn't you use the scope?" Duo didn't understand. "My brother and sister said that before a person with a good sense of shooting, using too many auxiliary tools will suppress his talent. I have to shoot by feeling. I want to be one with the gun. My brother and sister said that many snipers are good at shooting and can carry out tasks easily. However, one day, when they are fighting with a talented sniper, the gap will be revealed. One is a gunsmith, and the other is a god of shooting. A gunsmith is for the task and planning the target, while a god of shooting is for the control of the field. A god of shooting who doesn't waste his talent and works hard can sometimes even control the shooting range by intuition. Within that range, he is a god of shooting," Xiaonan said with yearning. She was still holding the sniper rifle. Duo couldn't understand how powerful a god of shooting was, but he knew how powerful the little girl in front of him was. At such a far distance, where the arrow couldn't reach, she could hit the head as she wished. If it was a normal person, he would probably die. No wonder the tribal leaders were so scared when they talked about the weapons of Tang. Even children could kill people easily. It was said that there were countless people in Tang. If everyone had a gun, Duo didn't dare to think about it anymore. He used to admit that Tang was powerful, but it was just an impression. When he saw the team of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, he felt that Tang had countless good things. Now he really admitted that Tang was unimaginably powerful. While he was thinking, Zhang Xiaobao had already skinned the deer. This deer skin was too complete, and the deer was not small. He could make something for his brothers and sisters. After thinking about it, Duo found that a large part of the deer's skin had been skinned very well, even better than his. He was too embarrassed to help, so he squatted aside and watched. Then he said to Zhang Xiaobao, "The deer head should be given to your sister." "No," Zhang Xiaobao replied casually. "It is the symbol of a warrior. When our children hunt for the first time, they will leave a part of the beast for their children." Duo thought that Zhang Xiaobao was greedy for the deer head, so his tone was a little different when he persuaded. Zhang Xiaobao didn't stop. "Can I leave it? She has killed too many animals. The purpose of killing animals is to eat and use, not to show off. Otherwise, it is disrespect to life and blasphemy to humanity. When you leave the head of an animal on the wall, you want to show others how good you are at killing animals and how powerful you are. My wife and I don't need to put any head on the wall, but where we are standing, who dares to say that we are not powerful? Yes, I don't want the deer head. That thing takes up space. Thousands of people have died in the hands of my brother and sister, but the paintings on the wall of my brother and sister's house are mountains and rivers. When you show your courage by using other animals' bodies, it is because you are not confident enough." Xiaonan stood over with a gun and watched the deerskin. His words supported her brother. Although she already knew that her brother was not her biological brother, she didn't understand the difference between a biological brother and a biological brother. Moreover, she had forgotten the things when she was younger, but she always remembered when Xiaobei gave her candy. So every time someone questioned her brother, she opposed it. Duo was speechless for a while. There were indeed several heads of beasts in his original home. There were bear heads, tiger heads, and many wolf teeth. He even had a chain of bear teeth around his neck. Just like what Xiaonan said, he used these heads to show the power of his tribe. Later, he left with the Tang team, so it was not convenient to carry them. No matter how precious the heads of animals were, they were not as precious as a set of knives. He put his hand on his neck and secretly exerted force. When he struggled again, his neck hurt, and the chain of bear teeth was pulled off by Duo. He used his wrist and threw it into the barley next to him. Only then did he feel relieved. "What are we eating tonight?" Zhang Xiaobao asked when he was packing up the deerskin. Xiaobei didn't need to be reminded to know that he was asking about them. He came over to look at the bloody deer and asked, "Didn't we arrive at the tribe's place at night? If I am not satisfied with their hospitality, I will. If I had known earlier, I would have brought our guards. They can be used as training. They are very old. The oldest one is already 20 years old." Xiaobei wanted to say that his guards were not good enough to receive his people, but when he thought about it, he realized that he didn't have any guards that belonged to him. They were all his brother and sister's guards. His 9 guards were still undergoing training, so he was very depressed. Chapter 1331. Duo had been listening the whole time. When he heard what Xiaobei said about his guards, he began to guess who this Zhang Xiaobao from Tang dynasty was. From what they said, the ones following them were not the Tang dynasty's army, but their own slaves. Oh, they called servants. There were also children, but they didn't come. What did their family do? Also, the little girl with the spear said that thousands of people had died at the hands of Zhang Xiaobao and his woman. Were they not afraid of Tang dynasty's laws? It was said that killing was not allowed in Tang dynasty. After hesitating for a while, Duo mustered up his courage and asked Zhang Xiaobao, "What is your status in Tang dynasty? You killed many people, and you are not guilty?" "I am Zhang Xiaobao," Zhang Xiaobao said. "I know. I heard you say that you are a good person. Then what is your status?" Duo was very nervous. Zhang Xiaobao finally stopped what he was doing and looked at Duo in shock. Wang covered her mouth and laughed. Xiaobei said, "Ha, I'm dying of laughter. Uncle Duo, you are really interesting. Brother, you are also interesting." Zhang Xiaobao also laughed and patted Xiaobei's head. He said to Duo, "Since you don't know my name, it's useless to talk about the official position. This war against the Duo was planned by my wife. As for me, I am responsible for mobilizing people to help transport things. You understand now, right?" Duo looked at Zhang Xiaobao in shock, and then quickly turned to look at Wang Wan. He moved his feet and took 5 steps back. Not only did he understand, but he was also frightened. You are heartless Xiao Bao, and you are demoness cuckoo? You are Xiao Bei? Duo asked in a trembling voice. Xiao Bei patted his head and sighed. Ah, uncle, it's not that I want to belittle you, but how do you think you can lead the tribe to greater heights? Come, let me introduce you. This is Xiao Hai, and this is Xiao Nan. Her sister is Danan. Don't they look alike? There's also Xiao Gang, Xiao Chong, Xiao Zhu, Xiao Fang, and so on. My name is Xiao Yuan. If you're not, wait a minute. Brother, look, Xiao Bei is bullying me in front of outsiders. Xiao Yuan could not take it anymore. No, I'm not bullying you. You don't need me to introduce you, right, Uncle Duo? Xiao Bei hurriedly asked Duo. Duo kept nodding. Yes, Xiao Yuan will be Xiao Bei's man in the future. It's just that he's always bullied by Xiao Bei. He doesn't act like a man. What are you talking about? Little Yuan is giving in to me. Uncle, you only know how to bully women. Right, big brother Yuan? Little Bei pouted and said to Toto before smiling sweetly at little Yuan. I'm so worried. Little Yuan also slapped his forehead. What do you want to eat tonight? Zhang Xiaobao asked again, ignoring the little one's playfulness. Xiao Bei smiled at little Yuan again. He observed the deer and said, Let's eat the venison hot pot. Everyone has a small pot in front of them. Little Yuan, and I will share one. There must be chili in the seasoning. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and agreed. He began to ask people to prepare enough portions, and it had to be the best part of the meat. He knew that Xiao Bei was still unwilling to eat in the same pot as the children in the tribe. Even though he had washed his new clothes when he changed, he was still tanned. Moreover, he did not undergo hygiene inspection, so Xiao Bei was afraid of getting sick. Duo could tell that the children did not like to eat in the same pot as his children, so he could not help but feel a little uncomfortable. However, when he thought about how this person directly started a war against the cannibals, his status was naturally very, very high. So high that he would not have come into contact with him if he did not meet him by chance. Then, he suddenly saw Zhang Xiaobao promise the children to make some hot pot. So he used this as a topic. Zhang, Xiaobao, can I call you guys like this? You guys okay? Xiao Bei, do they like to eat meat? You can call me whatever you want, but you can't call me you guys. It sounds awkward to me. You don't have to care too much. My wife and I are actually very kind. Really, okay, I won't say that we are kind. I'll just say that we won't kill you guys. You should believe me, right? When Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he saw the look in Duoduo's eyes again. Wang Wan was still smiling. She remembered how Xiaobao looked when he said that he was a good person yesterday. When she saw Duo looking over, she quickly tried to become serious and said, Xiao Bei and the others like to eat everything. They are not picky about food. You see that they don't eat in the same bowl as your children, right? Wang Wan immediately thought of this question. Duo nodded embarrassedly. Zhang Xiaobao smiled at him to show that he understood, but he still explained. Actually, Xiao Bei and the others don't like to eat in the same bowl as other children. It's not that they dislike it, but that they are afraid. We walk around the capital, and every place is different. To put it in a more profound way, it's different from bacteria. It's something that can make people sick. You locals are already used to it. Xiao Bei and the others are children. If they get sick from eating together, it won't be easy to treat them. In fact, we put medicine in the food you eat, including the clothes you change. The purpose is to let you take a bath first. Otherwise, why would we be in a hurry to make new clothes for you? We are all afraid that we will get sick before we can fully adapt to your place. Once the words were said, Duo didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. Who asked them to not be clean enough? It wasn't enough to be looked down upon from the bottom of their hearts. They could wash off the dirt, but they didn't know what to do when they were looked down upon. After feeling comfortable, Duo said to Zhang Xiaobao, Just now, when you said that they were in a dilemma about what to eat, why don't I give you an idea? Let them roast it. Roasted venison is very fragrant. Thank you. But they said that they want to eat hot pot. I'm not in a dilemma. I have to think about how to make them feel comfortable eating it. I'll do it according to the current deer. If the fiber of the meat is thick, I need to cut it thicker, and let them cook it slowly in the hot pot. If the fiber of the meat is thin, I need to cut it into very thin slices and let them cook it. Also, what should we put in the soup? We can't use the pheasant that we just hunted here to make the soup, nor can we use the fish in the river. It's good to use beef bones and pig bones to make the soup, but we didn't bring them. So I just thought about it. It's best to use the local mushrooms to make the soup. Previously we had the throat mushrooms. Together with the mushrooms here, it'll be enough. It can also let them adapt to the local bacterial environment. Add 2 dried abalones. Alright, that's it. Zhang Xiaobao patiently analyzed Duo. As he analyzed, he counted with his fingers like a child, calculating the counteracting and compatibility of the food. Duo was dumbfounded. Was this still cooking? This wouldn't do. His clansmen also had to consider the food they ate. They would have starved to death long ago. However, listening to it, he felt that it would definitely taste good. It was a pity that he couldn't compete with the children and the injured. Duo looked a little disappointed, not because he couldn't eat it, but because he thought about the lives of the Tang people. After comparing them, he felt inferior. He asked tentatively, "Do the Tang people all eat the same? How is that possible?" Xiao Bei raised his head and continued, "If only all the Tang people could be like this. Not to mention venison, we don't even have a lot of mutton. We eat pork every day. If we don't have enough pig meat, we have to exchange it with chicken and duck meat. It's good enough if we can eat pork ribs in half a month. If we want to eat venison every day, we have to raise deer like we raise pigs and chickens. Their lives are really tough. My family has a restaurant business, so the food there is better. It's a little better." Xiao Bei felt embarrassed as he spoke. Duo suddenly understood. He had heard of restaurants before. People who ate there had to be rich, and the food tasted good. He couldn't help but feel envious. If there was someone in his family who worked in a restaurant, the meat is good. It's very delicate. Cut out the tenderloin and chill it. Don't let it run. I don't want to make cold jerky for them. I want it cold and fresh. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao had already checked the meat for himself and instructed. Naturally, someone went to get saltpeter and chill the venison. Duo didn't know what chilling was, so he didn't ask. Otherwise, he would be even more surprised. Now he felt that Zhang Xiaobao shouldn't be so serious. He advised, "Just make food. Don't worry too much about the children." "Yes, that's what I said. If you don't want to worry, then don't raise them. Even raising horses knows how to be careful, let alone raising children. Look at the wild vegetables under your feet. You can't just eat venison." Zhang Xiaobao began to pay attention to the path under his feet again. When he saw wild vegetables that weren't poisonous, he would pick a piece and put it in his mouth to chew. He wanted to see if the taste could match with the venison and seasoning. Every time he confirmed something, Duo would pick it. There were many wild vegetables in the mountains. He was usually very careful when he ate them, afraid that they would be poisoned. Small root vegetables? Sure enough, it's time to eat. "Babies, what should we do?" Zhang Xiaobao suddenly found many small roots of garlic. The scientific name was allium white. He dug one out of the soil and tasted it. He asked the little ones. The 9 children began to feel awkward. They knew that if they had small root vegetables, they would also have cat ears. Then, they could eat the small root vegetables with cat ears soup. It was very delicious. If they added a small plate of sliced cucumber with some salt, it would be even better. But someone had already gone to prepare the venison. What should they do? One by one they frowned. Duo was puzzled. Your family is full of foodies. You frown when you're cooking, and you also frown when you're eating. It's as if you're in a dilemma. Is it more difficult than fighting a war? You can put the two together and eat them both. Duo felt that he was very smart and proposed a solution. Without waiting for Zhang Xiaobao to speak, Xiao Bei shook his head. No, venison is warm and nourishing. The small root vegetables are spicy and also nourishing. The cat ears are earthy and can suppress the slight spiciness of the small root vegetables. Together with the cucumber, it will improve the taste and clear the stomach. It's a good combination. Therefore, we can't eat it together with venison. Otherwise, we won't be able to taste the venison. Also, after eating, should we take cold medicine to digest, licorice to balance, or medicine to warm the spleen and stomach to stabilize. It's just a meal. It's not like we're risking our lives. Do you want to eat us to death? It's like chili mixed with ice. Can that be eaten? It's also impossible to add licorice. Those who dare to prescribe such a prescription are either quacks or divine doctors. Didn't you see that brother is looking for vegetables to neutralize the venison? Yes, yes. Illness comes from the mouth, and disaster comes from the mouth. We have to be very careful, Xiao Yuan echoed. Duo didn't understand at all. The only thing he knew was that it wasn't easy for Zhang Xiaobao and the others to eat. It sounded very dangerous. Thinking of the danger, he became nervous again. He said to Zhang Xiaobao, "When we see our big leader, you must not reveal your identities. If the big leader knows who you are, he might want to arrest you." Chapter 1332. Duo spoke very sincerely. After knowing who Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were, he knew the difference between them. They were actually the leaders who started the war against the cannibals. However, he was also worried. This time, the leader of his tribe helped the cannibals once. He thought that the cannibals would succeed, but who knew that the great Tang would be so prepared? Not only did the sneak attack plan fail, but the cannibals were also beaten up. The cannibals did not resist at all, and ran away without a trace. Thus, the great Tang troops ran to the tribe and searched. The leader did not dare to resist, but he also searched his small tribe again. If the leader knew the identity of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, would he play tricks behind their backs and capture them? The two of them were very important to the great Tang. At that time, they could exchange for more compensation from the great Tang. What should he do then? Zhang Xiaobao blinked and suddenly said happily, "Does it mean that if we perform a little worse and give your leader a good opportunity, he will make a move? Aya, this matter can be solved in advance, right, madam?" Wang Wan's eyes also brightened. She also looked at Duo and asked, "Can we really let your leader make a move?" "Not necessarily, right?" Duo began to lose confidence. He could see that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were looking for an opportunity to make a move on the leader of his tribe. Looking at the people from the great Tang, Duo began to think. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said, "If you believe me and can give me enough things, I can trick them out. You can do it directly. This way, I will be responsible for persuading the others and making them listen to you." "What if you fail?" Zhang Xiaobao asked. "My life will be taken by them." Duo put on an expression, as if he was not afraid of death. Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand. "Forget it. Let's just follow the previous plan, and directly use a strategy to kill. Your people will not be convinced. I still need them to follow the team and do things. It is easy to kill people, but it is hard to change their minds. We should pursue benefits and not force them." "I think so too." Wang Wan agreed. "It's easy to kill people, but difficult to make them work for you. Force has always been used to conquer but not to rule. Then be careful." At this time, Duo's recognition of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan deepened. A large group with guns could have killed their way over, but they didn't. Instead, they chose another method. If he followed them in the future, he would definitely have a good life. How could his current leader use benefits to get what he wanted? He was clearly using benefits to coerce them. If over 100 of his clansmen didn't give them anything, they wouldn't give him any food either. When it came to an exchange, he would be at a disadvantage. The team continued to move forward. No matter what, they would be able to reach their destination before dinner tonight. In a situation where they did not plan to come into close contact with the other party, the team could increase their speed a little. They could hunt more wild beasts and store them to replenish the team's daily consumption. It wasn't that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't know how to protect nature. Right now, they didn't allow Great Tang to cut down trees and hunt animals. It was unlike before, when they didn't have enough strength to stop it. They could only follow Great Tang's national policy of destroying forests and opening up wastelands. Now that things had changed, they could influence Great Tang's policy. Of course, they couldn't continue to pretend that they didn't see it. Bamboo forests could be cut down, and after cutting them down, they would have to plant new ones. Bamboo had a short growth cycle, and the old bamboo forests couldn't be touched. That was a cultural and precious resource. In fact, it was fine to cut down trees, but they had to be separated into different types of forests. Take the old red pine forests, for example. They couldn't bear to part with them, and wanted to leave them for their descendants, let alone others. As for opening up wastelands, they had to clear up the wastelands first. How many people did Great Tang have? Wasn't there enough land for them to plant? If they felt that the land was too small, they could just expand. If people came over to plant them, they wouldn't have to pay a single copper coin in taxes. They could even give them subsidies. But this wasn't the Great Tang, and it was impossible to kill all the wild beasts in the area. If 12,000 people could kill all the wild beasts in the area, it meant that the wild beasts had been on the verge of extinction before. This was impossible. The group hunted as they walked. When the scout at the front reported that they were only 5 li away from the other party's settlement, the group stopped to set up camp, cut down trees, dig trenches, set up tents, and start a fire. Dwudwa's tribesmen couldn't help with this kind of thing. They could only watch. They saw that the Great Tang's group was very fast, and that the camp was built well. You guys seem to be building camp faster than the Great Tang army. After 2 days of observation, Duo finally found this problem. He had seen it once when he was delivering things to the tribe, so he pulled Xiaobei aside and asked. Xiaobei and the other 9 people, including Su Yilong, were helping to measure the depth and width of the trenches, as well as the sturdiness of the stag trenches. Especially the trenches, the depth and width were not fixed. They had to look at the terrain. If there was a run-up, the trenches had to be widened. If there was something in the surroundings that could be filled in, the trenches had to be deepened. When Xiaobei was pulled back by Duo, he was on a small mound more than 160 meters away from the trenches. He was holding a luoyang shovel and kicking down hard to see the structure of the soil. He was sweating profusely. When he heard Dwudwa's question, he stopped and said to the people beside him, "Let the artillery calibrate this position. Even I can kick down, let alone you. What if they dig to fill in the trenches? 1 small cannon and 3 grenade launchers are enough. Let's see who dares to come over and dig." Then he turned around and asked, "What are you doing, uncle? I mean, compared to the Great Tang army that came before, you guys look more. It's faster to follow Yanjin, right?" Xiaobei helped Duo say. Duo nodded. "Yes, more rigorous. I've heard of this before." "That's right. They are the army of the imperial court, and we are the private army. What you saw should be the army led by Zhang Shogui and army supervisor Yang Xixuan. The 2 of them are still passable, and they have the help of 2 third-generation graduates from my family. Don't compare their fighting strength to ours. If we were to fight the 2 of them, even if 10 of them were tied together, it would be like a game for Big Sis. In other words, our 12,000 people can easily defeat 120,000 of theirs. The individual qualities of soldiers are different. Even if I explained it to you, you probably wouldn't understand." Xiaobei took advantage of the time while speaking to take a break. Then he picked up his luoyang shovel and kicked elsewhere. Duo stood in place for a while, stunned. Then he muttered, "In other words, your 10,000 people are more terrifying than their 100,000 people." Back then, they chased less than 6,000 people to the tribe. They clearly knew that there wouldn't be a battle, but they still built the camp like this. It's a waste of effort. Because this is tradition. You can't wait until you think there's danger. If you die on the battlefield because of this, no one will sympathize with you. They will only praise the victor. Zhang Xiaobao's voice suddenly rang out in Dwudwa's ear. Duo jumped in fright. Turning back to Zhang Xiaobao, he exhaled and said, "You didn't make any noise when you walked. There's no danger here. Who would dare attack you?" "I changed into rubber shoes and came over to watch others work." Zhang Xiaobao smiled. And then he said to Duo, "Many times in history, when the enemy believed it to be safe, a battle won by a small force. The Great Tang can lose, even if it has advanced weapons. But my wife's and my team cannot lose. Do you want to strike at the confidence of the Great Tang? Defeat our army and capture us. No matter what method you use, whether it's a direct battle or a scheme, as long as you succeed, all the industries of my Great Tang will be in trouble, and the people will be shaken. My wife and I are the symbol of invincibility. If we are ambushed here, even if 10,000 of our enemies die, it's still a victory for them. So you won't give them a chance. You're standing beside me without anyone protecting you. Aren't you afraid that I'll capture you? Duo understood a little, but he still thought of a possibility and clenched his fists. Hee hee. Zhang Xiaobao laughed. Your chest doesn't hurt anymore? You don't even have a stick on you, and your nutrition isn't balanced. It's just that you don't control yourself when you eat. As for me, this is called a knife. Don't move. The knife is very fast, faster than the knife I gave you. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, a small knife suddenly appeared in his hand. It was light black and had hemp patterns. He gently placed it beside Duoduo's neck, and with a flick of his hand, a piu sound came from a small tree beside them. Duoduo's pores opened instantly, and he felt much cooler. He turned his head to look at the small tree and walked forward. When he got closer, he shivered again. There was a 2-inch-long red worm that was nailed by the knife. Zhang Xiaobao, can you really beat your woman? If you want me to beat my wife again, I'll beat you first. Hurry up and rest. I think your leader will come over when it's time to eat. I've already sent people there to trade for food. We've consumed too much food along the way. Zhang Xiaobao walked over and pulled the knife out of the worm's body. He then took out a white handkerchief and wiped it. The small knife made a light black mark on his hand, and then it suddenly disappeared. Duo looked at Zhang Xiaobao's back as he left. His feet seemed to be glued to the ground, and his expression was blank. He didn't understand what kind of person this person was. When he looked at his smile, he thought that he was very ordinary. He just looked a little better, and he didn't look that strong when he wore clothes. Why did he have the strength, the throwing knife, and the ability to cook good food? But he was willing to eat the same food as his subordinates. The most important thing was that he was afraid of women. As long as his woman Wang Wan looked at him that way, he would smile. If I smile with my women, what will it be like? He's not like a man. He's so powerful, but he's afraid of women. Maybe only his women can understand him. Duo muttered to himself. He found that he really couldn't evaluate Zhang Xiaobao with what he knew. In fact, I don't know him very well. I only know a part of him. Of course, he doesn't know me completely, but he definitely knows me more than I know him. I plan to use my life to understand him. Don't just stand there. Organize your people. Your leader is here. Wang Wan's voice was the same as Zhang Xiaobao's. She suddenly sounded behind Duo. Then she caught up with Zhang Xiaobao, who was holding a stick, and said to him, Brother Simo Domo he luo fo che hoemo has come in person. He only brought 25 people with no weapons. It's really strong. Zhang Xiaobao swung it a few times, but it didn't break. He praised it, and then asked Wang Wan, Who? What do they do? The local leader. Wang Wan also came over and kicked the side of the deer. Aren't they the Mish tribe? There's no Mish in their name. Others call them Mish, just like the Japanese call us Shina. Do you have Shina behind your name? Who dares to call me that? I'll let him know why flowers. How many eyes does Ma Wangyi have? Japan was originally called Neon, okay? Later, our Chinese people were magnanimous and thought that their sun rose first, so they called it Neon. Unfortunately, this Neon name became derogatory in our time. I feel sad for them. Come with me to meet some Moda people. Zhang Xiaobao threw down the stick and walked in the direction Wang Wan pointed. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.